Excellent. Thank you and welcome. Call to order the November 12th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. I'll start with the pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge of allegiance to the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. And we'll start with introductions. For the table.
Mike Kozlowski, Commissioner.
Paul Shanley, Chairman.
Eric Berkeley, alternate.
Doug Cuny, alternate.
Sproul Braden, Commissioner.
And joining us online,
Diane Ryan, Commissioner.
Bob Leonard, Commissioner.
and we're joined by staff tonight.
Beth Cavagna, Director of Planning.
Dan Carter, first selectman and ex officio member.
Dave McCollum, Land Use Coordinator.
Amanda Martinez, Recording Secretary.
Excellent. Thank you. So we're, what's that?
Chuck is on there.
Yeah, Chuck Anders, attorney for the commission.
Perfect. Thank you. Start talking to see up there. We're gonna move right into the continued public hearing for Tim Draper, 9 Putnam Park Road, 830G affordable housing, 6 units, and I am recused from this application.
Myself as well.
And myself.
Sure empties out the room, doesn't it?
It sure does. I know. I
That's it.
just had a clear room.
All right, I'll be taking over this. David, do we have an update that we want to give before we reach out to the applicant here?
I'm not sure what you mean to us.
If there's any other information, or we just go straight to the applicant here,
Yeah, you should go right to the applicant.
please come up and say your name.
Steve Trinkus, professional engineer representing Mr. Draper. David, could you pull up the plan that I sent you last Friday, please?
Yes.
We make it a little bigger than that.
I will do my best.
Yeah, let's zoom out a little bit. Yeah, right there is good, Dave. Thank you. Last week, Mr. Draper met with First Selectman Carter and Laura Vasile from the Health Department. We had previously tested the lot in the northwest corner, right adjacent to Putnam Park Road. Tim, in meeting with them last week, Health Department was requesting still groundwater monitoring in this area, but in lieu of doing that, if we put in a curtain drain above the septic system, the Health Department would not require monitoring. So this plan shows a curtain drain here and a curtain drain here above the 2 primary rows. We showed it as a rectangle, so from the edge of the curtain drain, it's 25 feet to the green leach system, which is the code requirement. The curtain drains will be connected by a solid pipe in this area. The system's shifted slightly downhill. As previously shown, the driveway would move to the south. It would come in. We would have 4 units. We'd have 2 units with a connection. So it's 1 6-unit building. The prior application had a 4-unit and a separate 2-unit building. So when they're connected, I just have 1 6-bedroom septic system instead of 2 4-bedroom septic systems. We added the line graphically from the mapping from SLR using your GIS for the offsite wetlands. This is the 100-foot upland review from that wetland that is on 125 Milwaukee Avenue. We showed where the stormwater system would go here, which is clearly well outside the upland review area. It is also 70 feet from where the septic tanks are. Catch basins, when we get into final design, would be at the end of this driveway and down here, which would also be 50 feet from the septic tank and pump chamber. The code only requires 25 feet, so we're well away from everything. So the purpose Mr. Marcus and I are here for really is to, as this was in a modification of the application that was appealed, is to get the blessing of the commission on this particular layout, and then we will further the design and come back with a final site plan. I'll leave it up to Mr. Marcus if he has anything else to say.
Yeah, for the record, Neil Marcus, Cone will proceed 158 Deer Hill Avenue on behalf of the applicant. And just to, I'm pleased that we've got basically an agreement in principle on the septic. Again, procedurally, there was an application for a different design of the project that had been denied for basically two reasons. One was septic because of the issue of where the water table might be. And the other was an issue as to whether the Inland Wetlands Commission had to review and sign off on an area of the site that had a prior above ground swimming pool that was filled in, and the wet soils of that small area had some characteristics of wetland soil. So those are basically two of the reasons that the application was turned down and gave rise to our appeal. Under the statute, we have the opportunity to amend the application to address the reasons for denial with a plan that, if it's acceptable, of course, as Steve said, would eliminate the necessity of continuing an appeal. So basically, at this point, if we can get a consensus from the commission that this septic plan addresses that reason for denial, we are currently awaiting the results of the Inland Wetlands Commission application, which we'll have shortly. And if you will agree this evening that this addresses, as I say, that reason for denial, then we can finish the drainage calculations and the grading plan for the site. That the drainage and the grading were not reasons for a denial in the original application. However, the site has been moved around, so we have to revise that plan. So we'll get another shot at that. But we are doing this to the point now that if you say this addresses septic, will A, deliver approval from Inland Wetlands, and B, a revised drainage calculation and site plan for dealing with surface waters. So that's where we are. So if we're getting there, but it takes one more step, and actually takes two more steps. One, we're going to require you to give us an indication that this addresses one reason for denial, and then we'll complete the balance of the application revision.
Comments from our town consultants?
May I offer my comments first, Mr. Kozlowski? Thank you. Just to give us context from where we were at the last meeting, for those of you that weren't there or those that just need a quick refresher, a lot of the talking points that the applicant is bringing up or brought up at the last meeting, it seems that they are being recycled for tonight. The applicant seems to be looking for a consensus from you. I'm not sure what that means with respect to this being a modification application to the 8-3G application that was previously denied. Just as a housekeeping item or two, I should say, in terms of the wetlands application, they closed a public hearing on an application that was submitted to them at their last meeting in October, and they will be reviewing a decision, resolution that is, at their next meeting, November 25th, the Monday before Thanksgiving. So at this commission's next meeting on the 26th, they will know the results from that Inland Wetland Commission meeting the night before. Either myself or the applicant, I'm sure, will provide you that update. To shift gears back to us, in terms of where we are with our process, this is now the 10th meeting in one way or another that this commission has held a meeting item on their agenda to discuss development for this property. Okay. In none of those meetings that have preceded this, none of the requests that I will reiterate to you tonight are any different than ones that we have made before. In terms of asks that your experts, the Director of Public Health, and the experts that are working with them, the commission's engineering consultants, Todd Ritchie of SLR International Corporation, who unfortunately cannot be joining us tonight. A lot of the comments that they still have, or that they have, still needs to be addressed. There is a set of review comments from Todd Ritchie, dated October 17th, 2024, with 7 comments. He would have to review those list of comments to see what items from that list, if any, are addressed by this revised site plan. The same goes for Ms. Vasile, who I will allow her to embellish if she wishes on things that she may be looking for from the applicant to address the septic system design element that was included in the resolution of denial. Another item that I will reiterate to you, this is a site plan, okay? This is not a subdivision application. Regardless of, this being a modification of an approval, a modification application from the denial, this is a design for actuality. This is not feasibility. The applicant has to demonstrate that the designs that they are proposing, when it comes to the stormwater management system, the subsurface sewage disposal system, that those elements will work in actuality. So you will want to confirm from your experts that they have demonstrated that. So this 8-30GH process that they have filed for with this modification process, it does not preclude them from providing those other items that are customary for a site plan review. Stormwater management system calculations, which is an item that Mr. Ritchie is still looking for. Architectural renderings, like exterior elevations and interior floor plans, which were provided as part of the original application that this commission reviewed. The applicant is saying they're going to get another shot to look at this, but this is that shot. This is the modification, and that word you could take that at face value to suggest that there is not much that needs to be changed. But if the commission considers, what was proposed as part of the previous application that was before you, even though it included the same number of units, the configuration of the building, the location of the stormwater management system as they're showing on this plan, and the subsurface sewage disposal system, the locations for those elements all have changed. And if the commission recalls the site plan sheet set that they reviewed from their application, there was a lot more that entailed with that process than this sheet that you have before you. So I'm not sure where the applicant is getting the idea that they just need a consensus from you before they can proceed with giving this commission a final design sheet set. That final design sheet set should really be a part of this process so that the commission can, make a decision based on all of the items that would be customary for a review from SLR, for the Director of Public Health, as part of that application process. I would be happy to have Attorney Andrus give some insight on how that works. He's in attendance tonight if the commission has any questions. The same goes for Laura Vasile, Director of Public Health, and Chris Polatsky, who is with Civil Line.
All right, if we can, it sounds like we had a meeting with Laura Vasile and some other members of the
I thought we had a sign off on the.
Right, can we-
But apparently we don't.
No, it's all right. Can we get any comments from Laura Vasile from the health department,
Sure.
please?
Hi, everyone. In your information, should be a copy of the teleconference that occurred on the 6th. So I don't know if David has copies, so they can hand that out, but for transparency and all the hard work of all the parties, you have what occurred and what was discussed. So thank you, David. I concur with David that how we left it was exactly like the notes that you have. And Dan Carter is here and so is Chris. Ultimately, we made some progress, but it's a little confusing because it's like routine work that the septic system is on ground contours. So we did move forward, but that is a routine design element. The next thing is that when I spoke with Mr. Draper, we talked about the foundation, and he didn't want the health department and Mr. Pawlowski. We offered our services while he was away, so we could look at that interior foundation and see if there's any groundwater infiltration or what the soils are like, because we do that for proper re-preparation of a receiving area of septic effluent. So we're waiting for him when he gets back. He further didn't know what a concrete cover near the side of the house was. And normally that's part of the routine investigation process. Is it a septic system? Is it a cesspool? Was it a farmer's well? I don't really know. No one had anything to provide me. So we were ready to work with them. We look forward to it. We got a septic system on ground contours now. We do have to look. Thank you, David. I got this plan this morning, Chris and I. So we're not sitting on it. It just came. As far as the points that you see before you, besides investigating the concrete cover and the interior, the foundation, we're going to discuss with the engineer maybe, or delve into, is the curtain drain lower the groundwater 2 feet below the system. Very common design parameter in the code that the project engineer, I'm sure, is very well versed in. There was some discussion that we needed to have. And I'm trying to figure out a way that we could do it together mutually, as I've been working diligently to do. If Mr. Pawlowski and Mr. Trinkus had met with me together, I don't think we'd be where we're at as far as the soil types. So hopefully, Mr. Draper, Mr. Trinkus, Chris, and I can either meet, or when we look at the concrete cover and the foundation, try to come to a consensus about the depth of the restrictive soil for the hydraulic work that we do in design. So that is where we're at. We're moving forward. I think that the detailed plan has to come in, like David said, that normally comes in, that have the septic piping that we discussed last time. And if we could tuck that all in with the design engineer, I think, and then that site visit, I think we could get to where we've wanted to go for a long time.
Thank you. I have a question for.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Laura.
No, did you want to hear, if Chris had anything? I don't want to get ahead of you. I didn't know if you wanted to hear.
Chris, go ahead if you have comments.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Chris Pawlowski. I'm a licensed civil engineer in the state of Connecticut with Civil One. I just wanted to echo what Laura said. We had a meeting with the applicant. We've moved things forward, but we don't have enough information. They haven't provided a code compliant plan yet. But again, we are moving on the right path. We've gotten some progress in terms of the system on the contours, as she mentioned, the curtain drain being proposed. So we're moving forward, but basically don't have enough information yet to say, oh yes, the plan is code compliant, and Laura can approve it. So we're not there yet, but we're on the right path, I'd say.
Good to hear. Attorney Andrews, I have a question for you. I understand what both parties are saying. I understand what David's saying. It's not a complete set, but I think from my interpretation, you guys are just looking to say, hey, yes, let's move forward. But I know there's a timing issue with all of this, correct? Are we allowed to do a consensus to say and ask our experts from the town, it is moving in the right direction? It seems like it is. There obviously has to be more designed. We have till, if let's just say wetlands approved it on the 25th, and we have 30 days after that? So that it'd be a tight time frame to get all these drawings done. Am I misunderstanding something here?
Chuck Anders, attorney for the commission, do you want me to jump in on the timing issue?
I'm more for clarity for me, and then you could weigh in too on where we stand with everything.
Sure. Yeah, the deadline, there's two things going on. One, what is the deadline? It's 35 days after wetlands renders their decision. So I think we're looking at the end of December 30th, if wetlands were to render their decision. The other thing, Mr. Marcus and I have bandied about is the possibility of consenting to further extensions. And I don't want to put Mr. Marcus on the spot, but we talked about that as well as a possibility. Essentially, the applicant would waive a right for immediate decision on the theory that if we're moving the right direction, that's better than the time it takes to do the appeal. So.
Okay. Yes, Attorney Marcus.
I don't think I disagree with the thing that Chuck just said. Good evening, Chuck. I just was led to believe that the septic review is farther along than it is apparently. So if it takes another couple of weeks to review the septic, then we'll wait another couple of weeks. I mean, but eventually, if the septic works, the project, we're not trying to take away any review from SLR or anybody else who wants to look at it, but we're not going to spend the money on redesigning the site plan if the septic's not approved, because that was the original condition for denial. We'll let the court decide the original case. And so it's just a question of being efficient and cost efficient at the same time. Time efficient and cost efficient. So we don't want to deprive SLR from looking at the drainage calcs. Never did, and we're happy to have them do it. But we're not going to give them the drainage calcs until somebody says, yeah, this septic system finally works. And by the way, I've seen and designed and been involved in a lot of septic systems in the last 51 years. And this is the most reviewed septic system I think I've ever seen. It's really incredible how much work is being spent on this particular system, which is not that complicated, quite honestly. So I guess what we're going to do is I agree with what Chuck is suggesting. We'll give you a continuance of additional time to complete the review process. So,
okay,
that's where we are.
Do we have any public comments? None here. Any online? Any comments from the public online?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time.
All right.
Mr. Kozlowski.
Any commissioner comments? Yep.
Is our staff ready to approve the septic or not, right?
So it sounds like we need a little bit more work.
That's a question for.
I mean, I know they're not ready to approve the entire site plan.
That's correct.
But can they, can we, they still don't have all the information to get a consensus that the septic is actually.
Well, Steve Trace on the record. With all due respect, we did 7 or 8 test holes up there. They were logged not only by myself, the restrictive layer was also confirmed by Jim McManus, who's a certified soil scientist. I have done engineering since the early 80s, designed 2,000 or 3,000 septic systems in my 44 years of practice. I have never had one failure. I know how to read the soils. The code is 18 inches to a restrictive layer. We go between 23 and 36 inches. So the soils clearly meet the code. The system that Laura mentioned is more parallel with the contours because it's shifted downhill slightly. We're putting in a curtain drain that just goes into the restrictive layer 6 inches or maybe a little more, which is the code requirement when you're dealing with a hard pan layer. Is the curtain drain only has to intercept the hard pan layer. And that way any water above it hits the drain and goes around the system. If you were in bank run sand and gravel, then the curtain drain has to be deeper to de-water the area by pulling the water from under the septic system because gravel is highly permeable. In this case, with a restrictive layer, you only have to intercept it, and that's what we're doing. On that plan that came up earlier, there are cross sections, 3 locations across the septic system that call out the elevations of the green leach system, shows up the curtain drain on there. There's limits of fill that have to be shown on the plan, but there's, 90% of the information is on the plans right now. That is, Mr. Marcus pointed out, there is a lot of work on my end to do the grading plan, the stormwater management, because it's all changed from the prior plan, which is a substantial cost to Mr. Draper. And we just really want to know that the general idea of the layout is okay with you guys. We're not asking you for any blessing. We will then complete all the work that Laura's looking for. And we had SLR's prior comments, and we'll prepare the final site plans just like the original application.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Ms. Seal and Mr. Paul, are you in agreement that
Well,
this?
what's happened is Steve does not believe that the Director of Health assures the accuracy of information. That has been really difficult on me and the profession. So what happens is normally we all go out together, as their own wetlands agent said to you last time, and we look at it together. So they blocked that. And for some reason, they wanted to have Steve and a wetlands agent there separate of me to not get consensus. So when I look at Mr. Draper, I'm hoping will come on the property with Steve Pulowski and I, and because we've been around for a long time in this field as well, maybe looking at the foundation from the inside, I could come up with a way to gain consensus. I've never had this happen before. Normally, and some of the engineers that are older than both Steve and I have told me that they're surprised because you usually will take the health department's data, or you work it out in the field. So I didn't ask him to take my data. I said, I'll meet you with Chris because he wanted, he talked about being an engineer and we'll work it out. So I still think we could work this out. I don't know why this is occurring. I don't know why they created it. I begged and pleaded for us to all do this in September. And I'm with Attorney Marcus. We wouldn't have to be here. We approved so many things during the year, but you got to work cooperatively. So I think if I look inside, maybe at the natural cut in the foundation, I might be able to figure out how to meet Steve in the middle hydraulically. And that's what we're really trying to do. But he's kind of has me a little blindfolded, trying to figure out how to meet in the middle. Now, the law doesn't help. Like if there was this thing where somebody was obligated for some certain amount of years and the system got flooded out, that would help. But it's not like that in land development. So it's really important to get it right one time. It makes me feel so sad to have to discuss this, but that's where we're at. I'm still trying to resolve it. I do believe that this plan could have come in the way it is tonight before. I think it's closer to code compliant. And I think that if we could just work together and do some meeting in the middle, they would have a septic plan that was approvable like I wrote you last time.
Yeah, help me out here. Last time this applicant was in front of this commission, the applicant emphatically stated that he would not allow the town consultants on his premises.
We would not allow SLR, the
SLR
engineering
or
consultant.
Civil One on his premises.
Well-
And those two are agents of the town.
And they,
Has that changed?
as Steve Trinkus having represented towns and doing reviews, unless I have permission of the landowner,
Right.
I cannot go on the property.
I
Mr.
understand.
Ritchie did.
We
also-
Okay.
My question is
The
specific
question
to
is-
the last time
It-
this
it-
applicant was here. At that time, the applicant, as I said, emphatically stated that he would not allow either one of the firm's representatives on premise.
And I will-
Has that changed?
Well, my opinion, at the time we did the testing, Ryan, who was an employee of Bethel Health, came out and witnessed all the deep holes in the back of that property. Let me finish, please. Then when we did the perk test, Ryan was again out there again. We showed him all of the holes. I logged them. I gave him copies of my soil logs, which is the proper protocol. As a design engineer, I am responsible for this system or any system I design. The job of the health department when an engineer is on site is to witness the test holes. And I will tell you, I have done testing in Bethel since the late 80s with Laura, and I have never had my results questioned. So it's not a matter that I'm objecting here. We also, well, let me finish. There needs to be a story here. We also asked to have Matt Pollitt. I sent Matt Pollitt, who's the head of the state health department, an email request to have him come out with Laura to witness the holes. Matt said the request would have to come from the town. The request never came from the health department to have Matt out there. The soil scientist and I went out there with Mr. Draper on a Tuesday late afternoon because the soil scientist was not available Wednesday when I had the appointment with Laura. We dug the test pits, we left them open, we logged them. I put them on the plans. I gave her a copy of the plan with all the test pits. I hand wrote the perks on there because I had just done them. I was out on the site for an hour. When she was there, I said, I'll take you around each of the holes and I'll show you my logs. I'll tell you what we found. And that request was ignored. And then
I think we remember, like, I think we all were here
But
for last week. We understand
the
all that.
point is here, we'll finish the design, it meets code, and they can review it.
Can we just answer
I will
Sproul's
make it-
question? Yes, Mr. Attorney Marcus.
I
This
believe,
sounds
that-
like one
Hold
of
on, he's gonna answer.
All
I
right,
believe the issue was that the property owner, the applicant, objected to the town's consultants just wandering onto his property without notice or permission. That was the issue. And by the way, it's improper to do that without notice and permission.
understood and
Other
agreed.
than that, obviously, the consultants have to go out and look, as Steve just said, Laura has to log the holes. I mean, she's got to go out there and look at the soil. I mean,
I think what,
for that sake. So I think the misunderstanding was that there was no notice or specific permission to go out at a specific time. And that,
I don't want to
Yeah.
beat this to death.
No, and I agree.
You don't want to
Well,
belabor
I
that.
think we just want to make sure.
Close with this
We
one
already-
argument. There was a scheduled site visit for that following weekend, following the Tuesday meeting, at which time we were told that the town consultants could not be present. Now,
That I didn't know.
my question is, has that changed?
I think so. I was not aware of it.
Well, I also think, yeah, in order to move this forward, which I know you guys want to, we need to have at least somebody representative there to move this along in a civil manner. Eric, anything? Bob, Diane, anything online?
I agree with Sproul. We need to clear up this issue of, our consultants were told not to come. It wasn't a case of him wandering out there by himself. Laura wanted him to go with her to an inspection where he was told not to come. If he came, he would be trespassing.
Yes,
That's what I remember from last meeting.
yes.
I think we have, Mr. Freeberg on the line.
Mhm.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Laurel Draper. Again, we have two sets of different opinions here, from what I understand. And, we want Matt Pollock to come here. And I've called, and I think Steve's called, and he refuses to come out unless Ms. Fazil or the first selectman ask him to come out. Now, again, you've got two different sides. We think one thing, you think the other. Let's get somebody in here who actually knows the state codes and everything. And why won't he come in? Laura, why haven't you called him?
Sounds like,
I don't think we need him. I think that
No,
Steve,
but I
the
think-
inland wetlands agent, and you and Tim and Chris and I can go out and do what has occurred for the last 40 years, and the wetlands agent and anyone else who'd like to visit and look at these soils together. I just a point, the initial soil logs and perks we did accept, and we went over that last time. They are acceptable. In the front, it's a little confusing because there's a driveway and a house, and it's not unusual to have compacted soils and to have sometimes fill above original soils. And there was some of that there, but it's not recorded. So we're not trying to pull the commission down. We're not trying to pull the applicant down. I wrote that I thought there were several ways to develop this. I would never write that if I didn't believe it professionally. And I think I'm not the only one who knows that it can be done, but it has to be done the way we've always done things. So if Mr. Draper and everybody else would come out with us and we could look at that concrete cover, we could look in the interior. Maybe we do just a couple confirmation holes, where just a couple confirmation ones will be, and the details that we ask for that are not on this plan. It would not have cost a lot of money for the details that we asked 2 meetings ago. And I thank the person who brought that up with the piping and things like that. That's routine. By the time we're done, you should hear that they have a plan they can install. It's routine and we're out of there. So,
Okay, am I still on?
yes.
Yes.
Because I wasn't finished talking. My question is, as a taxpayer, don't I have the right to request Matt Pollock to come out here?
Would you like me to handle that, Laura? First, like, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair?
go please.
Okay, so we understand what kind of happened with Matt Pollock discussion. It was brought up to me about bringing the state in. The reason we did it in the first place is the state is actually our arbitrator. If something happens, that's our appeal authority. So at the time, we stuck with what we had here and we went with it. I have had a subsequent conversation with the state, and there may be an opportunity to bring them in at some point if we need to. They'll have to have a separate hearing officer, all that. Our last conversation with the applicant, which I was witness to, went very, very well. I mean, I know this is kind of going off the rails a little bit tonight, but it really, really did go well. I mean, they came forward and looked at the septic plan. There were only a few little things to tweak around that were major things, but they were small moves. And I think the one remaining is the health department wants to take a look at the basement of the house and look at what is going to be needed to do the preparation. So because it's right up next to one of those pieces of septic. That's the only piece. And I think the applicant hasn't decided whether that would be okay yet. That's still the one question that's out there.
Let me address the basement issue. See,
Yeah.
Trace for the record. It's a masonry block foundation. You're not going to see the soils going in there. I've been in the
Sure.
basement when we did the other testing, because the first time we did the testing it was actually raining, so I took cover there. What occurs in situations like this is all the structure is removed completely, all the concrete, any gravel, whatever. The soil is then scarified with an excavator to loosen it up, and then the whole hole and the slope is filled with select sand and gravel, like you'd raise a septic system. That's the protocol for doing this. You know, I'm sure when Tim gets back from being away, he can take Laura and show her the foundation. You're not going to see the soil with the concrete wall.
So
So that's what's there.
I agree. I think we've all agreed it is moving forward in the right direction. I think what Attorney Andrews and Attorney Marcus, they agreed upon the next steps here moving forward. Let's have those meetings over the next weeks, whatever it is, and then we can come back with those, and then hopefully we can then have you guys finish up your drawing set and move on from there.
Well spoken.
Okay, can I still just ask the question again? I have requested Matt Pollock to come down. Is somebody going to ask him to come down, and will he come down to mediate this because it's contentious?
I
And-
think we've moved.
Laura, let me try that. If I understand Dan, if he's needed, he'll be brought down, but at the moment,
He's not
Dan
needed
thinks
quite yet.
he doesn't need him yet. So that's the answer is, well, they haven't rolled it out.
And I do think we've moved forward in a positive momentum for the project. So let's keep with that momentum and as first.
Are we running out of time though?
That's what Chuck and I just talked about. We're gonna have to give a formal extension. We'll do it. We'll get this done.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Kozlowski, I think it is worth the commission reiterating what they are expecting from the applicant in meetings for this application going forward. Because otherwise, I don't, the commission shouldn't run the risk of this discussion going in circles.
I agree. I think in my opinion, you have your meeting, you got to go look at the foundation, as Mr. Trinkhouse just said. Develop the septic drawing, whatever details we need further. We can then come back, hopefully give you a consensus, then further develop their drawings. We give them their extension and we go from there. I think, does that not make sense? Is that?
The staff asks this question because I as you know, an agent working for the commission, I'm trying to broach the gap between what the experts that work for you are asking for and what the applicant is asking of you. There has to be a way for this commission to be able to confidently make a decision on this application and have all the materials and all the comments that they know they need to have addressed completed before that takes place. So that's why staff offers that question.
No.
So if you are looking for the septic plans to be hashed out, which staff would recommend that it would be, and Laura is recommending, you know, not to speak for her, but she hashes out what she needs in her comments from November 6th, well, they're dated November 6th, and all of the comments going prior to that, and the same would go for Mr. Richie. While the stormwater management system was not explicitly mentioned as a reason for denial in the commission's decision, like as I mentioned earlier, it does not preclude the applicant from ultimately providing those items for the commission's review and for their expert to say the applicant has demonstrated that this stormwater management system will work and is in compliance with the regs.
Agreed. And I think the applicant said they'd be more than willing to provide those, have Mr. Ritchie review those.
Right.
As soon as they have a consensus to move forward. And I think we are moving forward in the right direction.
But the point that I would add to that is it puts the commission in an uncertain situation if they're giving a consensus before their experts have all of the things they need to review.
I appreciate your consultant telling you how to run your show. Your lawyer is sitting up here. Why don't we ask him to advise you on how to proceed? I don't understand what the issue is, but we're going over the same thing over and over again. What you've just outlined, the applicant's in perfect agreement with. Now your consultant is telling you have to do something else. So what do you want us to do?
Attorney Edges, you have a comment there?
No, I think we're going to continue the hearing. I think your next meeting is till November 26th. We're hopeful that you get the septic consensus on the septic issue, so you can make, that's what my understanding is, by that time. And then going forward, I think Mr. McCollum is absolutely correct. You need the additional information on the details of the stormwater, the elevations. And Laura, I don't know if you need any of that, any information for your septic review.
Yeah, it does help. But what I would like the commission to encourage is for the applicant to work with the health department and our consultant to just address the final items we need so we can come back to you completely.
And from what I've heard here tonight, I think everyone's in agreement that they are willing to work together to do that. Now, if we come back to the next meeting and that hasn't happened, then we can have that discussion and further that point. But I'm very confident that we're moving forward in an amicable way here. And agreed that once we have that, we will then get the full design of the site and our consultants can then review it.
I'm not sure I do how to say amicable, cooperative.
Cooperative is a better word. There you go.
Right. And we may need some additional extensions beyond the 35 days after wetlands.
That's for our attorneys here to work out.
You and I will work that out. Thank you.
Right. We'll talk off with Mr. Marcus about that offline.
Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you.
All right.
Actually, Mr. Marcus and I have a request, Madam Mr. Chairman. 2 items under your new business are represented by both of us, and they're just for acceptance. If we could maybe quickly do those.
Now that we're done with, I'll let the full-time chairman come over and answer your question.
So we're continuing this public hearing, is that correct?
Yes, we're going to continue the public hearing.
Okay, to the November 26th.
November 26th.
Great, excellent.
Take the easy way out. Give him the chair back.
Yeah.
Okay. Does, what, do you want me to stick around for any reason or should I? Yeah.
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Your company out, rest of it.
Right.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, good night.
Mhm.
I'm gonna see you Thursday night.
All right.
At least 2 acceptances.
I'm not gonna accept it. I'm gonna recommend that they don't accept them.
We're gonna move on to the public hearing for 7 Milwaukee Avenue. Gabrielle Salino, home office detective structure. Do we have the applicant here for that?
Do you also have a public notice that you need to put into the record?
Right, it's right in front of you.
Oh,
The applicant here,
here it is. Oh,
you wanna come up
Here.
first?
You appear in November.
This is the second hearing.
Bethel Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on November 12th, 2024, in meeting room D of the Municipal Center, 1 School Street, Bethel, Connecticut, at 7 p.m. to hear the following. Gabrielle Salino for property located at 7 Milwaukee Ave for a detached structure to be used as a home office. The property can be found in the assessor's records as map 30, lot 42, lot 6. A link to review the materials can be found on the town's website. The public may send comments via regular mail and email to landuse@bethelct.gov. Parking for the hearing is located to the rear of the building. Paul Shanley, chairman. Where's yours?
Yeah, so speaking on behalf of my girlfriend who owns 7 Milwaukee, we just
And your name and address?
My name is Brian McKinnon, and I live with her in 7 Milwaukee. We just welcomed the baby daughter, so she's home watching. The daughter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't have much to present. I mean, I did all my documentation. David has it on my laptop, hopefully. It's, in my eyes, it's fairly simple. We have the building is already in the backyard. Essentially just looking to make it into an office space, not gonna build on top of it, not gonna, do anything to the existing building. Essentially just putting a desk in there. I work in sales, might use some storage space in there as well. House is pretty tiny, so, might have some baby stuff in there, boxes, etc. It's, really as simple as that. We're gonna do a mini split, gonna have heat and AC in there. And that's pretty much it.
In regards to the application, one thing we do need is, when you're speaking about a home office, we need to identify what the home office is for, because what we want to know is that there's not going to be constant people in and out of the office.
Okay.
I know it's to the rear of the property, and obviously no one's going to be parking and going into the extreme rear of the property.
Yeah.
There's no bathroom associated with it. Again, we always look for warning signs of that, because it's very simple for the next owner to move in and do a change to an apartment, things of that nature. The other thing, just to remind the commission, is that we do affidavits that go in the land records that state it's specifically used for a home office, and that carries on by deed to the next owner as more of a provision to protect those surrounding property owners from, I call it monkey business sometimes. We've had some instances in regards to this particular neighborhood. There's a property with a pool and a pool house. If I recall, on Milwaukee Avenue, they were converting the pool house into an apartment, and we had to put a kibosh on that. And, so it's just to give you guys a little bit of background as to how we use the home-based office when it's an accessory structure, and especially in today's world.
The building that's currently there that you mentioned, the exterior, nothing is being modified there. It's in good shape.
Literally
It's
just the inside,
popping in some AC and
desk, AC.
Was there any other commission questions?
Is the current interior state finished, insulated and finished? It's insulated. We started a little bit, but it's, there's still some things to be done. No.
It's functioning right now?
Nothing, honestly, just we have to use it, so that's a little outdated.
Electric power to it nowadays, or is that part of it?
We're gonna put electricity in there. Like I said, I'm in sales and I need my laptop.
There's power in it now already?
electricity,
Yeah.
I believe, yes.
Electric and there's water service too, but no septic.
There is
My
water, I
understanding.
believe. We're not gonna be using the water.
Okay.
But yeah, no bathroom.
Yeah, I see there's just a hose spigot on the outside of it now.
Yeah.
You wanna take a picture of the existing pictures? I have no questions. I got pretty cut and dry. While the commission reviews the, pictures, is there any public comment? Ma'am?
Yeah, Mary Ann
Would you mind
Glenn.
coming to the front?
I'm Mary Ann Glenn. I'm at 9 Milwaukee Avenue. I'm right next door. I want to be supportive of this. I understand, that housing is tight and, I want to be supportive. I am concerned about the, I'm concerned about the parking. Milwaukee is a very tight and it's a dead end, and I like to be able to turn around in front of my house. So it is difficult when that's blocked. And then the only other concern, and I have no concerns about the owners doing the right thing at all. I want to be supportive. I am concerned about what will happen after it's sold, since I've been in my property since 2005. There have been 6 different owners. No, actually 5 different people have lived there and 5 owners. And everybody has done a modification. It turned out that before it was sold the last time, which was less than a year ago, there were some modifications that were done that I was unaware of, and they had to be permitted after the fact, which was fine. But I just get concerned about the aftermath and the density. And, would it be a situation where after the current owners have moved on, somebody else buys it and tries to then convert it into the same things that we have at the house next door, which they had tried to turn into an apartment. Again, I want to be very clear that I'm supportive of Gabrielle, and you've been a fantastic neighbor so far. So I just want you to get that. Thanks.
Thank you. Is anyone else?
Beth, you said there could be deed restrictions.
Deed restrictions,
That
we
would,
do.
so we would put those in place.
Correct.
But would I have to, let's just say, I'm sorry, do you mind me asking another question?
Sure.
Deed restrictions, that's great, but then would I have to, would it be on me then if there started to be mission creep, let's say, on whoever else buys the home, they decide to go ahead and try to make it into an apartment, then I guess it's on me to do something about that if it's happening.
If you suspect that there's something going on there that shouldn't, you just call the department.
Yeah, I just don't like to be in that position. Like, I really hate the position.
We don't go out and inspect. If you're
No.
asking that's the
Oh, no.
question, no,
No,
we do
I
not
know.
inspect.
No. But in other words,
We don't
like,
have the staffing.
I fear, I do have some concerns about retaliation. Like, if I report something, I mean, I don't know how to explain this, but I take zoning regulations pretty seriously. Before I bought my home, I did make sure about certain things.
Mhm.
And then over time, I understand things change, neighborhoods change, things like that. But I just feel sort of uncomfortable having to police that. And I feel like zoning regulations exist so that citizens and homeowners don't really have to be looking after all of these things. I mean, I don't know.
But what I'm telling you is
Oh,
that
no, yeah.
we do not have the staff to
No,
enforce, so the
no,
only way we know that these matters
Of course
exist is by you calling.
Right,
And you have called.
right. And yes, I have. Is
So,
that
I
wrong
mean-
to- No, but I guess my question is that wrong for me to be doing?
No,
No, not at all.
that's how we know.
But I know, is it okay? Okay. Right, but, all right, I understand.
Why don't you talk
It feels
offline?
intimidating, and nobody spoke to me about it at any point. I feel like it feels intimidating to have to call, and I feel bad about
Is
it.
this a change in use?
No, residential,
No, it's
it's
just an
an
accessory
allowed
structure.
use. It's an allowed use within residential zone.
Also, there's been parking questions. The parking's not gonna change at all. I mean, no one's, like I said, I work for sales, I have software sales, so no one's.
I'm not sure your neighbor's concerned about you.
No,
I think she's
yeah,
worried about
absolutely
future-
not.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Future development.
Yeah, I think it's future that you're talking about.
Correct,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
I thought I made that very clear.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, I completely get where you're coming from. It's kind of an issue in all kinds of things that happen across the town.
Right.
Building issues, people who are living there. You have more rights in your property than we do to be able to go in and just arbitrarily inspect.
Yep.
So it is unfortunate, but we do rely on the community sometimes. You see something, say something. And pass it along, and then the town will look at it. But that's really the only way we can uncover things sometimes.
Right.
Even safety issues.
Right. And what I'm saying is,
From a, yeah.
I felt really bad calling. I felt terrible
Sure.
about it. And actually, probably if they had started doing it all over again, I probably wouldn't have called again. We wouldn't be sitting here tonight. And I feel bad that we are.
Yeah.
I feel like it's my fault somehow. But at the same time too,
Yeah.
I do own that property and I have a lot of, the prior owners wanted me to open up my fence for them, give me easements. When I didn't, I was questionable about granting these easements. And the Lawlers used to live next door to me. So I called Marty at one point and said, do I give these easements? And he said, how if you don't want to?
Right.
And I didn't. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I can't give these easements. And then there was like retaliation, parking in front of my house, jamming up the street, turning on the lights. And I really hated that. I came home one day and there was this giant pergola right in my face in my backyard. And I thought, what do I do? And they graded the property and used my fence as a grading structure, which I know is completely wrong. Now, this woman, Gabrielle, has been a dream so far. I'm going to say that. She was everything that I could hope for as a neighbor. So I have absolutely zero, but I just don't want to repeat these types of things. I didn't report so many different things and they were all, if you look at the property, a lot of the things were permitted after the fact because they had to be before it got sold. And because I thought, I want it done for posterity. So I don't have a problem with that, but I am concerned, like I said, my, frame of reference is that there have been 6 different people own this house since 2005. That is a lot. So any changes, of course, I'm going to be here this evening. It doesn't make me a bad person.
Well,
No,
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 not at all.
No one thinks
Not
you're
at
a
all.
bad person.
No, no.
I'm not a rotten neighbor.
No,
You're good.
no.
That's-
And all they were trying to do is give you reassurances. Now there's documentation.
Right.
Everything's in the file.
And I
There'll be
appreciate
something
that.
on the deed, so don't move for at least 20 years.
Exactly.
That will be part of the affidavit.
That's the resolution.
All right,
That'll
sir.
be part of the resolution.
Thank you. Thank
All right.
you very much.
All
Is there
right.
any other
Have a
public
good night.
comment?
And Mr. McCann, thank you.
Any other public comment online? Any other commission comments or questions? Then this public hearing is closed. We're gonna move into the business meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you gonna move up Taylor and Milwaukee? That's what they were waiting to
Yeah.
see. If they could do that next.
No,
No,
No.
you're not gonna move that?
I'm going to make a motion to move on the agenda the Board of Selectmen 824 referral for Stony Hill Reserve for 67 Stony Hill Road. I'd like to make a motion to move that up into our business, before the business meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Paul,
Ready?
I'm recusing myself from this.
All right. Mr. Legnard?
I'm good.
I don't think they can.
They're all fine.
Yeah, we have 4. Majority.
Oh, you wanna sit? You
I'm just saying,
you have to sit some other members. since
Yeah.
Some people are recused,
That
but
was
you
just
gotta
to move
start
the
your
agenda.
business. That was just,
just to move the agenda.
thank you.
Okay.
That was just to move the agenda.
I don't like David.
And we have four. We have four, yeah.
We moved the agenda item.
So anyways, now that that's, we're gonna move into the Board of Selectmen, 824 referral to Stony Hill Preserve, 67 Stony Hill Road. We have with us, Dan, would you like to take the floor?
Absolutely. Thank you. First off, thank you for moving it up. Thank you to the Master Gardeners for being here because otherwise he wouldn't have moved it up. I had to wait till the very end. Let me just kind of go through the story of what's kind of unfolded. Can you, David, can you put Stony Hill Preserve up here?
I would say yes.
Will
Yeah.
do my best to find it.
I'm gonna step outside and talk to
Oh, okay.
council, if you don't mind. You don't need me for
Yeah,
this.
we'll be somewhat quick.
I just want to keep it moving.
You just go to even
Yeah,
maps, Google Maps.
Oh, Google Maps.
Yeah, Google Maps. Yeah, or GIS. Yeah. Bethel CTGIS. There you go.
Make sure you share what you have on the screen.
Oh, yep, okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna share real quick. So everyone on the screen can see.
That's it. You got it.
There you go.
There you go.
There.
You got it.
All right, what am I putting?
I think it's 67 Stony Hill Road, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the address? That's right.
Oh, 67.
Just for that property.
There you go.
And if you wouldn't mind, can you go over to the left and hit layers on the side
Mhm.
and then go down to just to Google satellite map is fine. There you go.
Perfect.
There you go. That way, folks can actually see what we're talking about. Stony Hill Preserve has been there for a very long time. In fact, it was in the beginning, it was the Fairfield County Agricultural Extension Commission had the property. That was created in 1955. It's been in Bethel for a very long time. It's been the home to 4-H, to the Master Gardeners, a bunch of different, agricultural organizations over the years. What happened along the way, and I think around 2017, there was kind of, I'll say, a split of the board. Stony Hill Preserve was created, and in that, the Fairfield County Extension and Stony Hill Preserve, basically, they sent the property over to the Stony Hill Preserve. And I guess the idea at the time, right or wrong, was that the Stony Hill Preserve would take care of the land and the extension would take care of the programs. Notably, there's an extension in every county. So along the way, UConn has been there, and this really was to support UConn all those years. That's what they've been doing. They've been sorting UConn. UConn occupies the front building, the little brown top over there. They use the white building some, and they use some of the back, like 4-H has been there over the years. There's been, I just say, a lot of disagreements over the years. I'm trying to keep it nice. I'll also mention that the Master Garden is right up front here. If you haven't been there, you gotta go. And back here on the side of the parking lot is where they use for the farmer's market on Saturday mornings. I became aware this last year that there was a fight between Stony Hill Preserve and UConn and a disagreement, and it was going into a lawsuit. Over the time, I found out that the UConn lawyers and everybody involved were looking at the Bethel Land Trust as a possible place to take over the property down the line if that's the way they went. I think they were looking at trying to find a nonprofit or, in our case, a municipality to take over the property and keep it as it is, to keep it running. So the Bethel Land Trust, what they were doing kind of fell through here about 3 weeks to a month ago. And I was approached, obviously, they're kind of waiting in the wings looking at this. Now, it's also very important to say that we are very aware that there's a case right now also from the Fairfield County Agricultural Extension Council And there's actually a cloud on the title right now. Like there's still a case going on that they're interested in having the property. And meanwhile, there's the Stony Hill Preserve who has the property and UConn. So there's all this kind of stuff going on in the court right now. With the town's interest, obviously the town would have a huge opportunity to partner with UConn, support the Master Gardeners, support 4-H. You know, we're in a very good position to have that up there, especially with everything else going on, and to protect it in its perpetuity. So the town has had initial conversations so far with Stony Hill Preserve and with UConn. The things that we all agree on are we want the property preserved. That Stony Hill Preserve understands that we would want to work with UConn and keep UConn there long term. That would be a very viable way to keep this property, and any monies collected on the property would go into the property. So any rents paid, anything done on the back, everything would stay with the property for its use in perpetuity. One of the things too, they've talked about having maybe Sustainable Bethel or something help manage it over time. It's very similar to what the town does with the old train station. You know, the old train station has a committee, they manage it, they take care of it and negotiate the rents and lease and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's an incredible opportunity to protect the property long term. We know that with UConn, they have the charitable part of UConn, or the charitable part of the state is involved. So whatever happens here has to remain a charitable use. I mean, one of the big problems is it was never really on the deed. It had to stay that way. And whatever comes out of this will be protected long term, no matter what happens or where it goes. If it goes to the Fairfield County Extension, if it comes to Bethel, another party someday. I mean, I'm really hoping it's Bethel, and it sounds like it's going very well. However, the big case that has to be solved before Bethel can even be in line is to have the Fairfield County Extension Council, Agricultural Extension Council lawsuit done or settled, whatever. And that might take some time. We don't really know. So from the town's perspective, we're working with Stony Hill Preserve, and we're working with UConn to kind of come up with some ideas. We've been told that we have until December 1st to come up with what would be suitable lease terms, like from the town to UConn. And that's actually put on us by Stony Hill Preserve. They want us to know, because they have court dates coming up. They want to know the town is really a viable option. So part of that is seeking out the 824 review from you guys, just to see if it's like, okay, is this plausible? Does it make sense from planning and zoning? Do you have kind of an idea where we're going? And the important thing is that there's still a couple of steps to happen. Before we can do anything else, we have that lawsuit Todd has to come off the title, because we don't have any ability to do that. Stony Hill Preserve can't give it away. Nothing can happen until that happens. The other thing is, whatever lease opportunity we come up with has to be approved by a town meeting. So the lease itself would have to go before the voters of town before we even make the next step. So this is the first piece. You know, does it make sense from the town's perspective to do it? And what does that look like? The next piece is kind of waiting what happens in the courts. And we have to have a town meeting that would approve a lease. So I hope that kind of makes sense.
So you're looking for a consensus from us, just to think of it
A positive report.
A positive report.
That would be, yeah.
That it's a good idea for the town to take on the property.
Contingent on.
And then
Clear title.
obviously, yeah, once all the legal stuff
Right.
is cleared, and keep it the way it is.
Yeah.
And protect it from future development.
Right. We know from the discussions with UConn and Stony Hill Preserve, it's an 11-acre piece of property. There's been talk about, dividing the two parcels, putting some sort of easement or something on the bottom parcel just to make sure it stays that way. UConn having more influence over the top, they've been very adamant about protecting the master gardeners and making sure that the garden is there and that there are opportunities for the gardeners to use the property. We've also talked about common use of the White Building. It's an excellent community space for the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Lions Club. A lot of things that go on up there. There's no town community place. It's also a great place that UConn wants to expand. Like they want to be able to do their master garden programs during the day. They want classroom stuff. And the other advantage to the town that I kind of pointed out to UConn is that when somebody comes to the state for money for a grant, like we want a grant to do something that's property, If the town is looking for the money and the state is backing us up, we got a lot better shot than the state looking for the money from their budgets. That's just the truth of it. So whatever we do, having a really viable partnership with UConn is kind of a big part of this to make it work.
Any commission questions?
Paul, I have a comment. I would make a motion, we'd do a positive, report on this, the town getting affiliated with this piece of property. Is definitely an asset to the town as it is right now with the master gardeners there, and it's something we want to keep for open space forever.
That's a motion. I have a second.
Second.
All right. I'll take a roll call vote. Get to see some people. Yes.
Well, you have four, right?
Yeah.
So those.
Before the vote, I will seat Doug for Kitty, Eric for Ken, and Jeff for Diane, who is recused. So, Mr. Legnard, Lisa, you and I?
I'm in favor of it.
Jeff?
I'm in favor.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, the motion passes unanimously. There you go. You have your positive referral.
So there's no, excuse me, so there's no public comment or?
There's no public comment for any for 84 or for 824.
Okay, thank you.
But I will say it's noted that everybody's here and we will communicate with the master gardeners. I just actually.
Actually, FACE.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Here. And the story that you told.
We will
was not totally correct.
Okay, fair enough. Well,
One point of information, there is public comment at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We have a spot for public
you can
comment.
speak now, you can speak at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
yeah. And by the way, you're welcome to meet with me anytime and we can make sure the stories are, I've been very open to the master gardeners or whoever. I want to hear what.
Are you Dan
Yes,
Carter?
I am.
Come on.
Hell.
Okay. Well, the same people, we're gonna move into our business meeting. The same people can stay seated. I assume, Diane, you're not gonna recuse for the business meeting?
No, I'm still on for this, for business.
Okay. So then Doug for Kitty and Eric for Ken. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from 10/22/24? Would have a motion to accept the minutes
Make a motion to accept the minutes from 10/22/24.
in a second.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I will abstain because I'm not here. We have an invoice for News Times for public noticing for $317.50. I have a motion to pay that.
Make a motion, we pay the News Time, $317.50.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The abstentions? Motion passes. We're gonna move right into our work session for 7 Milwaukee Avenue, Gabrielle Salino Home Office Detached Structure. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? Beth, do you have anything for us on the 7 Milwaukee Ave?
No, but if you can do it off the cuff, if you care to, I have no, resolution at this time.
Okay. Any commission members have any questions, concerns?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it's very straightforward.
Structure's pretty much almost complete as it is.
Yeah. Jeff, do you have a question?
Really, I think.
Yeah, just basically refinishing the garage and.
Yeah, if you want, we can do a standard motion of, I'm sorry, I'm still with my conversation out loud. We can do it, you could do a standard approval, for a special permit to have a home-based business in the garage with the, what I call the standard conditions of approval. If that's the way you want it to go, base it on the drawings that you have in the drive. And, the standard conditions of approval are basically what I said during the discussion period. You know, we do up an affidavit, we have the affidavit done before CO is issued. And,
Yeah.
and things of that nature. ENS controls, so on and so forth. It's up to you guys, however you want to do it. You want me to do it in writing and give it to you the next meeting, I can do that too.
So I think it's pretty straightforward. I'll make,
do it, but you said too much for me to repeat it.
I'll make a motion to approve a special permit, for the, detached structure for 7 Milwaukee Avenue.
Standard conditional.
The standard conditions will apply.
Affidavit, the deed restriction,
And,
Reference to the drawings that were included,
reference to the drawings that are submitted
the rendering.
and, the renderings. That's it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion passes.
Can only do this.
POD traffic and mobility study. Beth?
Okay, so one item that you, during your discussion point phase of this was in regards to, the zone itself, size of the zone. So what I did was, with the help of David, we created a map for you to look at to discuss this evening, if it's something you want to pursue or not at this point. If Amanda, can you bring up the map?
Yeah, where is it located?
Under planners report?
Sure, give me one moment.
Yes. Okay, so when you look at the TOD area, when you look at the TOD zone, it may be easier to click on this, and I can identify certain landmarks so you can understand better where I started with that. I started at the town line, where Timber Oaks is located in blue, and it goes all the way around the Hub Shopping Center, takes all of Elgin Avenue into effect. Willow Street, Paul Street. Everybody oriented? Okay. And then what I did for discussion purposes this evening, I was thinking, okay, so you look at this area, if this is what you want to do is reduce the size of the zone. But I think that you also have to take into consideration the uses along Grassy Plain Street. If you look at Grassy Plain Street or Route 53, is what it should be called, I apologize. Route 53, when you get to the town line, when you're at the town line here, I guess it's easier if I go like this.
Is Dave able to point on the actual screen for those of us on here? That's
Hello, Diane. I wish I could, but I am driving at the moment.
oh, okay.
Please don't point, David.
Okay, so up here, you have the beginning of the town line, right? You have Timber Oaks across the street. Consider what these properties are here. You have Union Savings Bank here. And then you have other various large properties, right? So those, there is a couple of vacant properties there. I don't know if you want to consider that. It is commercially zoned now. In the commercial zone, you are allowed to do commercial and residential development, but not at the density that you would get under a TOD. TOD, you get 20 units an acre. In commercial zone, you get 10. It has no overlay zone in this area. It's pure commercial. So think of the Hub Shopping Center. That's a commercial endeavor, shopping center, and full blown. And those are the uses that would basically be allowed where I outlined in black. They were all lots that fronted on Route 53. Okay, so that's another consideration to take into effect. Some of you, and I'm just going to talk a little bit more. Some of you have also talked about some concerns in the having a true industrial zone. With the elimination, with what you did with TOD back in 2016, basically what you've done is you've given the opportunity for mixed-use developments, things of that nature in the industrial zone. So therefore, what you've done is you've wiped out all of the hardcore industrial uses, contractors' yards, backhoes, dump trucks, things of that nature, from anywheres in town, with one exception, and that would be over on 32 Henry Street, where Vanderbilt Chemical is, where the school buses are, and where Shepherd's Warehouse is. That would be the only true industrial area that you have left in the town of Bethel. Okay? And I'll leave you with that, and you guys have any questions, just let me know.
I know we also talked about changing the name from the TOD to an economic development zone.
You did mention that at the last meeting. I think that's something that is truly just, if you wanted to change it to the economic development zone, I think it would affect some of the descriptions involving TOD. So I would have to go back and look at that. But I think the purpose of changing it to an economic development zone was to keep it out of line with the
states,
with that state act that they tried to pass last year.
Yeah, that we're targeting TODs.
That we're targeting
specifically.
TODs. And that's as long as it has some meaning, I think you would be fine in doing that.
All right. Go ahead, Sproul, the floor is yours.
I'm missing the history behind this. There was an original zone, then there was an overlay that enlarged the zone.
TOD is an overlay zone. So all the underlying zones that exist in this area now, they still exist. It's only if someone wants to come in and do some type of a redevelopment or development of the properties, that's when they can apply the TOD overlay zone to the property.
Okay. How does this compare to the original and to the expanded?
This is part of what was called the expanded zone. When the TOD zone was originally put together, they expanded it to include this particular area of town.
This blue zone? that
Yes.
So what we're saying is we're going back to the original?
Yes, I believe that's what you're saying. I'm not trying to put words in your mouths.
No,
I
I'm
think
asking.
that-
so
No,
that,
this is a work in progress.
I think that
Yeah, it's
the
a
concern
session.
was that when you're talking about a true TOD, you're talking about walking distance to the train station. Without a way to get there, the walking distance from this particular area of town to the train station is more than, I'm not gonna walk it. I wish Allison was here. It's more than 15 minutes, more like a half an hour.
A true TOD would mean 5-minute walk.
No, it can go up to 15 minutes.
That's you want to know from me?
No, I've got to keep it just within the commission. I'm sorry.
I would, I'd be in favor of even taking the ones off the
other side of Grassy Plain?
The west side of Grassy Plain.
Why not all? And I'm not.
I mean, like removing,
I'm not
turning those blue as
proposing-
well.
I'm not proposing or going against, I'm asking questions to get educated on this. So I look at this and I say, we have the railroad running from the top of the page to the bottom, the bottom to the top. We have all those pieces of land with individual owners that in the next 150 years are never going to get access to public transportation of any sort. Why do we have them in this category?
The reason that they're in this category was originally, the thought was that there was going to be, I'm sorry, it's better if I go look at this now. The thought was that there was going to be a connection to the train station.
Right.
Okay, from this area, whether it be through a pedestrian crossing here and access through here over to the pedestrian crossing. Or the other way, and this was again, a dream more than anything else, was where Paul Street is, a walkway going through the swamp, the Great Swamp, to get you over to the train side too. So it was a very innovative, big picture dream. It's not a plan of conservation and development, which is good for 10 years. This type of planning is 20, 30 years. Does that help you understand, Sproul?
It does, and I apologize for.
No, not at all.
Commission's time.
Not
As
at
I
all.
said, this is a learning curve for me. So, but it brings me back to what's the benefit of having any of the blue lots? Why not take the entire blue area out?
That's what.
I think that's what we're saying. And then Paul was just adding on to it, the additional lots over here on the west side of Grassy
My
Plain.
misunderstanding, I thought he meant only the blue lots on the west. My misunderstanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question.
Question?
Sure. You said that TOD is an overlay district too, so if we look at like Grand Street, High Street, around there, that's still, that's a residential district. But the TOD rules would go in effect, you said, with a redevelopment project.
For example, in
Give me an example.
okay, so High
Right
Street-
now, it's a single family
Right.
house, a
In the High
Victorian
Street.
house
Yep.
on High Street.
on High Street. The Victorian house on High Street. Number one, I can't recall. I don't know if I think it's R10 zone or is it double R10 zone? Let's say it's R10. All right, so it's single family zone, right?
Yes.
It would allow you to convert the house to a 2-family. That's one.
Okay.
Two would be, say you have an old garage, something in the back, garden, cottage, like on Grand Street, there's cottages, there's barns and things of that nature. It would allow you an easy conversion to do that. And in those terms, when we're talking about redevelopment, you're talking about not having to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a site plan. It would just be a site plan developed and reviewed by department staffs. So there's a cost savings there, especially if it's owner occupied. There would be an architectural review. We have a town architect that would look at it. You would have to
Architectural
observe.
review for all TODs?
Yes.
Yes. Our architect would look at it. There would be a fee associated with that. There's a few examples of it on Greenwood Avenue, 220 Greenwood, where the barber shop is. There's a barn in back of there. The White House that's right next to the automotive for sale, the auto place. See, they converted that cottage, and it's all done within the office. When you go down Greenwood going towards Burger King, Big Y, there's 253. It's a yellow house. In the back, there's a barn there. You don't even notice it. It's got 2 units in it and an office. So those are just examples of using High Street or what else is over there? Division,
Grant.
right?
Yeah.
And allows you to go closer to the property lines too.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the whole idea is to save the old houses by allowing people to develop the property in a way that didn't demand that the house be torn down.
Okay.
I will tell you, if the commission is considering removing the TOD overlay zone from this particular area of town, there is a process that you do it with. It's not just, okay, we're going to remove this. There's state statutes that you have to follow, and there's zoning regulation statutes that you have to follow. And in regards to this, there's public hearing, there's noticing requirements that we will have to do. The most important thing is to be sure that this is what you want to do, because I could guarantee that there is a provision in the state statutes that if 20% of the property owners disagree with you, and they petition the board as such, then you have to have a supermajority of the members approving the zone change. Supermajority meaning you're a 7-member board, you'd have to have 5 members approve it. I had that experience out of Route 6 when we did something up there years ago.
My experience with TOD though, it's especially lately, it's been overwhelming public not in favor of the TOD in general. I mean, we had the hearing last month. We had 30 people in the room. I think there was one person that was in favor, and he didn't even live in town. He owned 3 businesses in town, but he doesn't live in town. That spoke volumes to me.
Well, I think that's important though. Do you hear from property owners and business owners in town?
Yeah, I'd agree.
And the effect on, you know, if there's a positive effect in regards to TOD or not? I don't know. I mean, I think that's as important as hearing from the general public.
I also feel like folks who are in opposition to a plan that exists are probably more likely to come and attend a meeting like we had. So it may not totally be representative of, you know, making a blanket statement like that group of 30 people represented the feelings in the town. I think might not be fair.
I think that's a very true statement because you have, no, I don't mean to point my finger at you. I apologize.
I get that a lot.
My attitude has always been, Dan has these in-person meetings where people can come down and talk to him, you know, like at night or first thing in the morning and things like that. You tell me who's going to be getting up first thing in the morning on my way to work and stop at the first selectman's office and tell him how wonderful life is and how great it is in this town. We all talk to him.
See him more.
You talk to, you know, when you have concerns, when you have things that you need to talk to, find how to handle it in the town. So that's a tough job. And you have a tough job too, because you have to balance just what you were saying. You know, you're not going to have people go out of their way to say, I really like this. I think this is great. They'll tell you in the grocery store when they see you, but they're not going to go out of their way to go to a meeting and attend and say it. But that's part of your job. You have to decipher all that and make these decisions.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So, I think let me back up. So as you know, last March, we had a World Cafe style workshop. And I'll get you more information from that for the commission. But we had folks from all walks of life in town, and it was really talking about concerns and what they also loved about Bethel. Overwhelmingly from that and the town's marketing study for businesses that follow say that people are concerned with traffic, they're concerned with parking, they're concerned with the amount of development, how quickly it's happened. The question is, changing TOD doesn't address the concerns, right? TOD itself can very quickly become something we go after thinking it's going to fix everything. That's still part of it. But I think as you work your way through this, think about those things that are really happening in town. You know, people feeling like they can't come downtown and find an easy place to park, and we can talk about all that. So you got the park and mobility study. We're looking at shared parking, all that. But the feeling that, you know, things are being built up and it's kind of changing the character of downtown, that's a real concern for a lot of people. At the same time, you know, they love downtown. They love what Bethel has to offer. I mean, this community is very strong, and they're very happy with a lot of it. So just, you know, TOD itself kind of becomes the thing we go after, because at the end of the day, you could go back to village district zoning or something and do, I don't know, you can do anything. From the political part, you know, from the time in the legislature, it's very clearly that they're trying to secure like TOD as being something it's really not. I mean, it's not rapid transit in Connecticut, which is what it should be. They are using it to really affect local zoning and take charge of zoning. In this case, they're going to call it the transit-oriented communities. So yeah, we don't want to be the target of that, but I also don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. If you think about some of the things that TOD does, allowing some of this development that actually protects the houses, like those are very, very good things. So I just think I would encourage the commission, you know, be very judicious as you go through this, look at it, make sure you're actually hitting the underlying needs that affect development and parking and all the things people are concerned with. And yeah, my 2 cents.
one thing I've heard people on both sides are concerned with is commercial, the need for more commercial space, right? And I think what you had gone over when we had our town meeting in the larger room there was the positive impact we've had from that. And I think that was one of the positive impacts from TOD. And I think that proof of, you know, the community member there who had the 3 businesses. Is it something to look at where the TOD, if we're talking about reducing the size of it, it sticks to just the underlying zones that have a commercial component to it? Or, you know, it's throwing it out as an idea. And what does that map look like? You know, I could obviously tell it's probably the larger parcels here. But then it protects, maybe there's some community members that are just worried about. I understand what Mr. Legnar was just saying. The intent was to save the houses, maybe turn an old house into a 2 or a 3 family and have that characteristic. But what's to say someone at the quarter acre lot can't, you know, knock it down and put up 5 units there, whatever our regulation allows. So is it something that we should continue to think about, is maybe we continue to develop this, continue to have this conversation, we remove it from maybe the residentially zoned, specifically residential, the underlying zone, and focus on just the commercial zones for TOD. Take a look at what that map looks like and then have that discussion and see what the community thinks about that. Concurrently with potentially renaming it, I think we start to move in a positive direction. We start to have all of those positive things that we've talked about, the things that, you know, the larger parcels that can support maybe a denser, more appropriate development than the smaller ones. Just,
That's what I like to do. That's, never thought of it that way.
it's just the few conversations we've had over it. Even when we talked, like, it just clicked, even when you just asked, like, the underlying zone, right? And
Go back to the underlying.
let's go back to the underlying zone and let's look at what the commercial is. And that way, with the best of both worlds, in my opinion, you know, we still have that opportunity to have positive development growth of the community, which we need to succeed. You can't be stagnant, but it also protects. There's a lot of really great homes. I'm looking at all those smaller parcels there, and protect the neighbors. You know, not everybody wants to have 10 cars in their driveway next to them. You know,
Well, 2 arguments I always hear is the data. But there's one thing that data is never going to show you, and that's the character of the town. When you drive down the Greenwood Avenue, there's no data that represents the character, in my opinion.
I will say, to Beth's point though, the things that have been done and the way it was meant to be, not saying it will always be that way. The projects like 220, you know, they're very nicely done, and they've gone above and beyond in making their buildings look better, especially along Greenwood Avenue. I think it's fantastic.
That's probably the input of the architectural.
That's the architecture review, and that's the positive part
And
of
the
it.
density that they were given in
Right.
regards to it, because otherwise they would not have gotten the density.
Maybe if there are still select underlying zones that don't have a commercial aspect to it,
Yeah.
that maybe that gets reduced to even smaller number for TOD. So it still can protect maybe doing a 2 or a 3 family or whatever, 4 family. Somewhere along those lines, I think there's a compromise we can make to make this all work, where we can all move forward in a positive direction.
Eric Swenson, you guys know him since that public meeting? He works for the town, the public works department. But he has like a PowerPoint. Yeah, he brought it up at that meeting that he wants to show the board. It's my understanding it's loaded with information because he has a lot of history on the TOD. I'd be interested in seeing that.
I think if we look forward in one of our agendas that we have some time, I think it'd be a positive thing.
Yeah.
To do.
You're really on a positive kick tonight.
I'm a
Like-
positive guy right
It's
now.
still-
You know, just smile. We're going into the holiday season. Have fun.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, comments?
No, those are excellent points, Mike.
TOD wise. So obviously no changes are happening tonight, but I think, we'll keep the conversation going and see what some of the different maps look like and get some more ideas around.
In a positive manner.
I'm gonna be negative for a minute.
No. All right, so we're gonna table that, move on to the review of proposed architecture for 22 Nashville Road site plans.
Can you bring up 22 Nashville Road?
Before we do.
Yeah.
Let's not lose sight of the traffic and mobility
Good point.
study.
Like, what's the next steps with that?
I gotta be honest, before we move on, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was really disappointed in that study because I was, yeah, very. Cause I was excited to see a lot of information about easing congestion, and there's a lot of information about making it way worse. I was just very,
I have to share your disappointment.
very
There was
disappointed.
a lack of data.
Yeah.
What is the size of what is the problem that we're trying to solve? Parking? Well, what does that mean? Are we solving for 20, 30, 200? What are we solving for? There's no definition. All we have is, okay, let's make crosswalks.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating. There's some
No, but you're not.
blurry
But you're not.
license
There's-
here on my part, out of frustration.
I think it was more on the mobility, right? That was
And
focused
it's also,
on, but
you know,
we-
what is the mobility, right? If you come to town, what are you coming for? Are you coming for the summer concerts? Are you coming to go shopping, to go dine someplace? Where do you go? Where is your mobility as a pedestrian that's taking you? What are the routes? What should we do to enhance those? There's nothing here. And that's the kind of mobility study I'm accustomed to seeing. So there's some prejudice on my part.
Glad you brought that up.
Yeah, are we gonna continue then the discussion and move into the traffic and mobility study?
Oh, sure. Go. I breezed over that, so I apologize. Well, I'm glad you brought it up.
But we can't ignore it. We've been waiting for it for months.
Yeah.
And I share your frustration in that it's a little light.
Yeah, I just think, I know there was some discussion of it, but I think we do have to focus more on some of those parking ideas and how do we move some of those things forward. I disagree a little bit. I do think there were some good things in there from a mobility standpoint. I do think he
I
tried
didn't
to
hate all of it.
No,
There were
no,
some
I
good
think
points.
there were some good points in there, and I think, again, maybe that's a deeper discussion for another day that we could talk about the points we liked, disliked, or whatever else. I think there's some things we should adapt to, but I also think even just talking about the pass through here or the spots on the other side by the assessor's office, those are the positive things I think people in town will get excited about
Mhm.
in a positive way.
Yeah. But bump outs along Greenwood Avenue, removing parking spaces.
The bump outs are about the mobility and safety.
Yeah.
That does help. That
This
helps.
is, I lived on.
I'm kind of lost.
I lived on High Street for 20 years, and people coming up over from Burger King, coming up over the hill, flying into town.
Yeah.
And that's that first crosswalk is right there going to Parloa Park with my little kids in my hand, and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
There's a pedestrian that died outside of Note. You know, that one person dying, somebody asked in the public hearing, what's the quota for number of deaths? Before you got to do something about it. And 0 is the answer.
Yeah, you know, I
one
agree
person
there.
dies and we got a problem. We should be fixing it. So I really think that the bump outs are a necessity to slow down the traffic. I do agree that it will probably build a little bit more traffic on Saturdays, weekdays at 5 o'clock. You know,
Yeah.
it will be a little bit of a challenge to.
There's
a
other
few more
ways, though,
minutes.
like RRBs. I didn't. They were
And
like.
I think the
tough
parking
jobs.
study showed that we don't necessarily have as big a parking study as we think we have, or as big as a parking problem as we think we have. You know, obviously, right downtown in front of Bird's Books, you know, there's very limited parking right there. But you know, I thought the study showed a lot. If you really looked at the charts, there's a lot of green and some opportunities, and they had some ideas on how to alleviate some of the parking that we are struggling for. So I was actually thought there was a lot of data in there and a lot of good ideas.
One of the problems with the congestion downtown and the parking downtown is you're dealing with a state road. And when you deal with state road, you have to deal with the state. They're not quick to change things or quick to agree to change things as you go along. We moved here, there were no traffic lights downtown. There was no traffic light at the corner of the library. It took, you know, like Jeff said, it took, you know, a fatality there to somebody to agree eventually to change that to a traffic light. But you're not going to solve the congestion problem. And that was a lot of the, you know, commentary that we got from the public at the last meeting was, you know, the congestion downtown, you know, at rush hour. You're gonna have that. You're not gonna solve that because most of that congestion is people just passing through. They're going to Newtown, they're going the other way from Newtown to Danbury. And you know, how do you stop the guy from flying over the hill? Imagine what it was like when St. Mary's Church was in operation on that corner that you're talking about, Jeff.
So what are we gonna do moving forward here? Just gather these thoughts that we've been talking about and set another work session?
I mean, are we supposed to critique that plan and implement something and try and go after funding? And is that the goal? Is that the original goal?
The only suggestion or possibility would be if the commission made the plan part of your plan of conservation and development, when funding becomes available through different WestCog, lot SIPs, things of that nature, that it's easy to point to the plan and say, well, we have a plan, here's our plan. It's a step towards application for something. If the commission were to make it part of your POCD, similar to you have an affordable housing plan, part of the POCD, you know, it's all funding more for funding purposes and guidance too.
It's important to note that during this whole plan, when they did it, the state was involved.
Yeah.
They've kept the state involved
Yes.
all the way along. And when there were things that were, don't forget it, that's never gonna fly, that was
Right.
never put in it.
Mhm.
You know, so the bump outs and all those sort of things were
They
things that the
mentioned
state
that.
felt like that were doable. And then the question just came down from the town's part, well, what would work to increase safety? And the parking thing, the parking part was more on us.
How do we get the state to raise the bridge on 53?
I,
I'm serious.
you know,
Not in my
I,
lifetime. And probably not
actually-
I work
yours.
for a construction company in my day job,
Yeah.
and when we have to go like down that way, it's
Nashville Road.
bang 302 right downtown Bethel.
Yep. And
Take
up
the hard
Yeah,
turn on
yeah,
Nashville.
Yeah, it's not a bypass.
we had another water main break on Nashville, you know, all the traffic and everything. And it's like, I want to take the bill and just send it to the state.
Yeah.
I want to do something to get their
There's
attention.
there's a
Yeah.
truck dealer on the other side of the bridge that anytime they have to come to Danbury, they gotta
They
go
gotta go
backwards
back.
up Nashville.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a joke.
You can thank your sister town Reading for this.
Yeah, they shot it down.
Reading shot it down and fought it very hard at the
Well,
state
we should
legislature
we should not
years
just
ago.
I,
lay over and take that because
so I'm the vice chair of WestCog now. And the thing that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if I can get it done through flood mitigation funds and target transportation.
Yeah.
So the fact that because of that dip and the swamp and everything there,
Just raise the road.
raise the
That's
road, raise the
great.
bridge,
That means raise the-
you know, there is funding available for things like that.
Very good
I don't know
approach.
if we can get in, but I talked to WestCog today about it because that money is out there for these kinds of projects that are flood mitigation for transportation.
Yeah.
The fact that 53 gets blocked as much as it does all the time
it's
is
bad.
an issue. Like even in just a 1 in 100 year storm, that thing gets
Yeah.
cut.
Anytime
So-
there's a heavy rain, there's a car dead that's been destroyed now.
Yeah.
'Cause it's in a
Yeah.
foot of water.
So that's kind of what, and if anybody has any other ideas, I'm all ears because I would do anything short of blowing it up myself on the record. Not that I
That
haven't
was
thought
a
of it.
really good thought.
That's a great thought.
Well, no, I'm talking about the FEMA approach,
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause,
the flooding approach.
the flooding
That is
approach.
great.
Yeah.
I think
All right,
that's
any
great.
other comments, questions, concerns, traffic mobility?
think about that thing every day.
So we decided to
Yeah,
move
we're
it to a future date.
We're doing things we want to do preference.
I would just leave it on the agenda. And when you have time during a meeting,
Yeah, okay. I would like to get on Eric on the schedule though.
Okay.
For that presentation.
okay.
I feel like he'll
Also,
bring a lot of information.
the mobility data is in the drive.
Good.
The appendixes with all the data used to come to the conclusions, that's all in there now too.
Excellent.
Okay? If somebody's a
Outside-
data freak,
More just to backtrack real quick.
Yeah.
On TOD, is there any way to put it, we don't have a historic district, right?
we do.
Oh, we do.
It was done many years ago.
Okay.
And
And you
it's-
would
it's-
incorporate the TOD and the historic, where like historic overrides TOD?
So you're not taking down historic structure?
Yeah, I think a lot of
I'm
people are
pretty
worried
sure,
about
yeah,
old Victorian houses that look nice and want to keep
Most
them
of,
that way.
okay, remind me, I'll send you the information on the historic district, because most of the properties that are in the historic district are along Greenwood Avenue,
Okay.
you know, like English, not English Drive. It's interesting what they got approved to go in an historic district. It was back in the early nineties, I believe. To do something like that nowadays would be really hard. Again, because now that they have the historic district designation, the funding that's available for them to do renovations and things of that nature is really, it's interesting and nobody's really taking a bite at it.
All right,
Well,
we'll move on to the review.
Well, sorry, one more. While we're talking about items for the agenda.
Yeah.
2 or 3 meetings ago, Beth, you brought to us that there was a company that was interested in.
Yes.
And we, as a commission, agreed that we wanted that.
That's
company to
correct.
Come and talk to us.
Oh, the structural engineer?
No.
No.
the-
I think he was talking about potential retail in Francis Clark Park. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
The rental,
Yes.
yes. And we haven't been able to do it because of your scheduling. But I think that at the next meeting, we'll be able to do it.
Excellent. Thank you. And I promise I have nothing else.
All right, review of proposed architecture for 22 Nashville Road site plan.
We had a meeting today. Alyssa, Bob Petty, Mike Kozlowski, and myself to do a preliminary review of these two drawings. One shows, I mean, can you go to?
Yeah, which one?
Show the single plan, where
Yeah,
it says single
bottom
plan,
one.
the bottom one first. Okay, so that's 13 units, single plan, single structure. All right, so that's what that's a proposal for a single structure on the property. You'll note that the parking, I believe I can't remember how many spaces open to. 17 parking spaces, 6 1-bedroom units and 7 2-bedroom units. Now, continue to flow through this till you get to the end, Amanda, where they show you that's the structure. Okay? So that's 1 unit, 22 Natural Road. All right, so now we want to go to the second set of plans. Michael, I may need your help on this too when I get to that point. All right, so the second set of plans shows multiple buildings, 29 parking spaces. Yeah. Okay, so if you recall, is it all right if I sit here and do this? You guys can follow along. As you recall, you're fronting on Nashville Road. The commission's request was to keep the existing 2-story frame house as similar to what existed on the property. Okay, then you have a smaller building next to it, a building in the back, and then this building over in the corner. It's a little elongated, whatever. Okay, you have a grand opening in the middle of the property here. If you notice that, it's a 24-foot wide driveway going into a sea of parking. When you're leaving South Street and you're looking across the way, you see a sea of parking. All right, so now go to go down to the elevation showing me okay, so stop there. So you see that this is a better attempt, in our opinion it was, to try to maintain some sense of neighborhood in regards to this, right? But in our, but in our, so in our discussions, I'm gonna let you, Michael, we'll go back to the original on this. So go back to the original site plan on
Yeah,
this, go
page two.
page 2. Okay.
Sorry. So what's deceiving about that streetscape here is that building all the way to the left, that was maybe the taller structure, is from this point to this point, right? And then they're nosing in parking spots underneath. So from the front, the rec view, which you're never gonna have, it looks nice. But when you're coming down the street, it's gonna just look like this hollowed out building, which in our review today, we didn't think was appropriate. On top of that, we thought between the two buildings, there was way too much a field of asphalt. The reason being, and we understand why they did it, was they were trying to achieve code for the parking count, right? This 29?
Yeah.
Is what, when you do the calculation for the units they have here, what they're required.
Right.
The previous plan, we don't have to go back to that right now, with the larger building had 17, and that's, it would have to cover a parking reduction for that particular project. When you start to look at this, you realize from a constructability standpoint, this is a very hard little wing wall to do. They've got these support columns. These spots wouldn't actually be able to happen. You'd end up with a 2 foot by 2 foot pier in each one of these spots. Every spot you have, you're losing one, right? So you're already down to maybe 22 spots on this entire thing. What we're suggesting the architect and the applicant do is take the larger mass of this building, bring it up here, eliminate these spots. So you have a driveway down the middle. We get all our parking in the rear. So double loaded corridor parking in the rear. And then we start to build a little bit better, more cohesive streetscape where you have the original dwelling here, maybe a medium-sized structure here that's only 2 stories. And then you have what was shown as representative in those architectural elevations. So we're hoping they come back with something like that. We'll have another work session to talk about it. But I think the things that we need to consider as a board is, are we willing for this type of structure, once we see it, to reduce the parking? Because this is just a lot of asphalt, and it's going to be half empty, not half empty, but it's going to, you know, be a little bit overkill. And they did make an effort, and that was their effort. And I just don't think it's, in my opinion, the appropriate solution. I think what we're moving towards is something that could be a little bit more palatable.
What kind of
parking would they get? I'm sorry?
What kind of parking would they get if they move into the back?
So I think we kind of just drew a sketch, and
Yeah.
somewhere around 20 spots.
Right.
So basically you would take this, that would come down here. So you'd have 8 and 8, 16.
Right.
We would then get maybe 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all this way. So like 2021, and then we would use all of the rest of this space for structure and all of this space for structure.
For how many units?
They're trying to get 13. Whether that's the right number or not.
I
They
think
can have
they
less
originally-
units, they can have
Well,
less
they-
units, equal the parking. though.
Correct.
They originally asked, I think, for 16 or 17.
Yeah. So it's gone down. It's obviously an ongoing work in progress.
The reason for tonight is, thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Is are we going in the right direction? With the thoughts on the second design of the property.
In the first design.
Not the first design is
I think
is the one
you guys can
large
come back,
building.
but I think it just looked too much massive, especially when you're
I
coming
mean,
down.
one more time, that's fine, but we're getting close to where I want them to give them some direction. And I don't know which one, A or B.
Yeah, I guess what they were looking for, whether, do you like the individual, maybe 3 or smaller buildings, or the one larger one?
That's the question.
That's the question today.
I'd call it B prime. I like your suggestions, multiple buildings with your suggestions to vary the parking.
Okay.
I think the second one is much better. You know, the first one's just way too large and domineering. So I think the second idea is a good way to go, you know, with some changes or whatever, but my opinion.
I promise I wouldn't say. Making me break my promise. I like the idea of pushing the parking to the back.
against the sea of asphalt, like you said.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
One question is, what are they planning to do with this two-story frame dwelling?
So that first option, they were gonna attach to it, and I think it was getting overshadowed in this. They would either refurbish it or rebuild in that footprint, is what my understanding is.
That's correct.
So try to keep that character. I think the second option kind of, it lends itself better to that.
With the revised Plan B, which I like also, parking in the back, I mean, couldn't you, but I think maybe you just reduce the number of units, then you could have the correct number of units relative to the correct number of spaces, and there's no variances either. Right? I don't know what number that is, but it drops down to.
So it's not a variance,
It's 25%. They can request up to 25% in reduction.
similar to what we just did for English Truck, correct?
Yeah. So I don't know the numbers directly.
I think we
Yeah,
should just give them the direction of what we just said.
Yeah.
See what they come back with. They might say, yeah, this only fits 12 units, and then that'll be reflective of it, and we'll go from there.
That's what's the other one?
Village Center and TOD.
What's the height requirement?
22.
What's the max height do you see?
Excuse me?
The 2.5 stories? is it?
2.5 stories.
That's what that building is.
35 feet. 2.5 stories. Oh,
That
three
first-
stories.
3
I'm
stories.
sorry. I had to think for a minute. We're not in the residential zone. 3 stories.
Diane, did you have something?
I did, but I can't remember what it is. Sorry.
He's trying to keep it 2.5 stories.
That left building was 3 stories.
The left one, there was one that was 3,
Yep.
and the
left
other
building.
2 is trying to keep them lower.
So, and what we talked about earlier was that left building is a little bit closer to the apartment building, the
Right.
larger former municipal building.
And that's where it should be. If it's gonna go
And if it's gonna
anywhere.
be a larger building, it should be at that corner.
That's where it should be.
Well, I appreciate the efforts for, yours, first of all, the applicants on the second set, because when they came in here for the zone change, which we approved, I remember specifically asking them to try to do something different than just an apartment building, because that was kind of what their concept was when they came in, and asked them to kind of break it up, make it look more of what's there now. And I feel like this is an attempt at that. So yeah, I'm in favor of this, with the changes and moving, not in this how it is, but I'm in favor of their effort, and I look forward to, where this road brings us.
At that meeting, and I was just a citizen at that, on the board, people were concerned about the road with the, coming in South Street there. I mean, that's kind of a crazy area. And also flooding issues or whatever. So are they addressing those kind of things in this plan as well?
I think, Diane, too, one of those things was lining up the driveway with across the street from South Street. So if you can highlight, so, and what we were just talking about, this driveway cut would actually move a little bit further north on the plan. So your visibility, looking across South Street, you're gonna see there, you're gonna be able to look up Nashville, up or down Nashville. Before, if I remember correctly, there was a curb cut down here. It was a little bit offset. It wasn't lining up nicely. So I think they're heading in a positive direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could we request that they would show us what this looks like in relation to the other buildings around there? I mean, the ones behind and everything else. I mean, how's the parking going to be? Is it backed up to other people's backyards on the other street and that kind of thing? I mean,
Okay, my suggestion would be is that you look at Google Earth in regards to this, and that will give you an idea of what the surrounding area is like. When Alyssa does her final review in regards to this, there is a full-blown application where they do give you pictures of the surrounding areas. That's one of her requirements when she finishes that. But my suggestion would be is to just go through Google, Diane. You can see the changes in elevation in regards to Chestnut Street and this particular property and the others adjacent to it.
okay.
Get an idea of the architecture.
But this property is kind of set at a lower elevation.
lower elevation,
Than the Chestnut
yes,
Street
correct.
behind
Yep.
it, so if you,
But
you're
if
gonna have a
you get an
retaining wall in the
idea.
back, and you'll have all that parking hidden, and if they make it,
Right.
you keep the big building to the left, kind of closer where they belong, so to speak, and then step down to the neighborhood that now continues down Nashville. it could be a really good transition. And again, I appreciate their effort.
Current use, I believe there's some type of commercial.
It's an industrial use.
Industrial.
Yeah.
This is non-conforming.
Pre-existing non-conforming. It's been there for what, forever.
Yeah.
All right.
They do make
On the new business? Beth, yeah, is that it?
Sorry.
Are you satisfied with
Yes.
our discussion
I'll
with
get,
the National
I'll
Road?
get in touch with the architect.
Excellent. New business, we have two incoming applications, 105 Milwaukee Avenue and 53 Taylor Avenue. It's my understanding they are not ready.
When you were taking care of other business this evening, I was meeting with the attorney for the applicants in the hallway and had a discussion with him in regards to the completeness of the applications. And they agreed to do some work that needs to be done, and they'll probably be submitting at the next meeting.
Okay, so we'll not accept these tonight.
My whole purpose is not to go through an 8 to 10 month process.
Appreciate that. We'll move into, we already did the correspondence, so commission comments. Anyone have any comments? Roll.
Oh.
I hold mine till next, meeting.
All right, I'll hold you to it. Carter? Diane, Bob, anything?
I'm good.
Excellent. So we're gonna move into public input. Is there anyone here in the public who'd like to say? I'm gonna ask that you come to the front, give us your name and address for recording purposes. Come to the front so you can be recorded. So at that, who would like to be first?
We'll pick up your awards for perseverance.
Ma'am?
Yes.
All right. Good evening. Appreciate your patience.
Mr. Chair, how are you?
Good.
And Selectman, how are you? I'm Janelle Covich. I am the president of FCAEC.
Okay.
We've been on the property for,
Could you say your address and
115 Dodging County. We've been on the property for several years. Supporting extension financially. And the land that we had, we want returned back to us. We have several people here. I like to hear a story from their mouths as to what's been happening, because there's been a lot of rumors from various places that don't appear to be true. And I'm hoping that we do meet and talk. We are definitely a player. And as I said, we've been there for over 50 years. Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you continue, Mr. Chairman, can I just state, I was out of the room when you first were discussing 67. Just note for the record that there is a letter in the Google Drive. Did you recognize that?
I didn't, but I did mention
Okay.
there's the case.
You did,
Okay.
but,
That's what
so
the-
let me
So
talk
there is,
about that.
all I want to state for the record is that there is a letter in a Google Drive, from an attorney, I can't
Yes,
remember the name.
Kendall.
Thank you, who is representing your organization, I believe.
Yes, and,
Okay.
yes.
He requested it be made part of the record this evening, and I just
Yes.
wanted to note for the record that
I
it was
appreciate
made
it.
part of it.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, he has been representing us, to return the land back to us. And, we have a huge, network of people that are also interested in having the land returned back to us. So,
Did you go to the Board of Selectmen? If you don't mind me asking a question in regards to this, because this is, all planning and zoning is doing is a referral, a report to the Board of Selectmen. We don't make the decisions in regards to this property. The Board of Selectmen is the one that makes the decision in regards to this property. So we received a letter from the first selectman saying, hey, What do you think about if this property is available, if we took it, made it part of our conservation
If the
area?
town, if the town accepts.
If the town accepted, if the
So
town
we-
accepted it,
We
we
have,
don't have any say.
oh, I did know that.
No.
And, we actually have been negotiating with SHP. And we were still in negotiations with them.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this whole thing occurred.
So, to boil it down,
Oh,
my famous words, if you're a positive, I like to boil things down, right? I think what we did today was gave a positive report that if all the litigation settles out and the town has an opportunity to acquire the property and protect it and keep it kind of the same use it is now, then we're saying go for it.
Okay.
That was the only thing this board recommended
Oh, it's the
tonight.
same use it was when the Fairfield County Agricultural Extension Council was overseeing it.
I would assume so.
Well, it's gonna be, it's beginning, whatever UConn,
Well,
probably
we,
negotiate. UConn is the one right now that seems to be holding the cards and kind of driving the train. little bit.
not really.
But I don't want to get into
I-
the
okay,
litigation.
so,
That's
so
their-
just
I don't
understand,
want to get into the
Right,
litigation
okay.
about it.
we should probably, there's a lot going on around this
It
property.
is.
There's a lot of history,
Yeah.
there's a lot of emotion.
You
I'm
can-
very aware that like the case is going on, I guess with, there's supposed to be some sort of meeting between the attorneys, from your attorney and them, but I'm not part of that.
I completely get it.
But I
I'm
wanna-
not angry with you. And
Yeah.
One thing you could do I think one thing the commission would really benefit from though, is a little bit of understanding exactly
That's
what the
we're here for.
Fairfield County Agricultural Extension Commission.
Council.
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 This is what we're
I got
here
commission
for.
on the brain.
That's why we're
But,
here.
but, you know, if you think of it, what's interesting is, because I've been here for quite some time. I'm more familiar with the master gardeners than I am anybody. And everything that I've understood is that UConn and you are the similar, or the same, or if they were above you.
No.
It's totally separate. I understand that.
I'm sorry.
But she would know the history.
I do.
The last few years, I think it would be great if you could just explain to the board too, just a commission, what it is you do. You understand? Because I don't think anybody knows, and I'm just becoming familiar because I didn't realize even you have it. We're trying for standing in the case until we did a title search. We did a title search and just literally last week and found, oh, there's a case going on.
Well, this is what we're here for,
Yeah.
and we're hoping to inform you of what we do, while we do it, and how much impact we have had in the community. Note that Bethel, that property is not just for Bethel, it's for Fairfield County. It represents the entire Fairfield County community. I'll keep it short.
Okay,
Me?
I
Oh,
think just to give you an idea of where we were coming from,
Yes.
in my understanding is I don't want to see that property be sold to a developer
It can't
It
be.
can't, the council never wanted that.
and that's what we're coming. If the town has the opportunity to take possession of it and keep it open space, and keep the gardeners up front and UConn up front, that's what we were giving a positive, recommendation, like do it. Let's not turn our back to it and let Mr. Developer buy it and build whatever he wants or he or she wants to build.
I heard you say that.
So
I did agree.
that's why I just don't want you to think that we're, now angling for something we don't have a right to.
Okay,
We're just trying to protect the property.
that's useful.
Well, thank you, and we agree with you there, but remember that the reason that land came to be is because of the council.
Yeah, we have.
It exists as a
Thank you.
unit because
But understand, we're not getting in the way of that.
Yeah, and we're not,
That
yeah, and
is-
again, and I think,
Yeah.
I think we said, thank you. I said that before, we wouldn't even want to get involved until the litigation was all settled. And again, we're not trying to step on anybody's toes. I don't think, Dan, you're not trying to step on
No,
anybody's toes.
however the litigation works, it works. But meanwhile, we have a process. So we have to be there and kind of be ready. I think otherwise, the parties still just keep duking it out until nobody wins. And whatever funds are with the property are drained. So I think the town's gonna be ready for whenever your case is decided. We'll be there.
So we're all in just a
Yeah.
state of suspension, waiting for the legal.
Waiting for the courts.
Well, you guys,
basically.
the courts have to do what the courts
Going on
are
for
gonna do.
years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we have no say.
Well, there's lawyers involved, so it's a legal matter now.
I'm gonna share the history.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, I just as a master gardener, we just want to know what more can we do to promote our own case? And obviously, we don't have to do that with this group because you are already in the boat with us, which is great. And I thank you and I love you for it. But help, if you can give us guidance on the next steps, that would be even better.
It's in the courts at this
You just have
point.
to sit and wait.
I know that the lawyers are all talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we were just contacted, I was contacted today. In fact, after I talked to Sandy, I got an email that the attorney for you guys wanted to make sure we understood there was a claim on the property. So that's a letter that came.
Barbara, you can probably do a little bit.
Yeah, let me do that. I think it might set some of the stage, the background.
Before you start, I don't mind this open conversation. I think it's great.
Comment.
Can we just get everyone that's talked, name and address before we leave tonight for recording? I'm not gonna try to stop right now, but so
Okay.
the floor is yours. I
Okay,
like
thank
this open dialogue.
No,
It's
thank you
great.
very much, really. And my name is Barbara Stauner, and I'm the secretary of the Fairfield County Ag Extension Council Board, located at 67 Stony Hill Road. And I'm also a Yukon Extension Advanced Master Gardener certified. And we all operate out of that extension office in Bethel. So I do want to share some of the history and background because it is a lot of history and it can be a bit confusing. So actually, a little over 60 years ago, the Fairfield County Ag Extension Council was actually incorporated. And it's specifically to support and partner with the efforts of Yukon and its extension program as one of the Yukon was one of the 106 land grant universities that across the country that has an extension program. And our mandates were very clear: to assist the extension program, the University of Connecticut, and the United States Department of Agriculture in the planning and conducting of educational programs for the improvement of agriculture, home life, and youth in all of Fairfield County, and to purchase, develop, and maintain the property at 67 Stony Hill Road for extension program. It was very specific. That is in our articles of incorporation. So this was in 1955. So from 1955 until the transfer of the property in 2017, which you were right, to the Stony Hill Preserve, the FCAC council members successfully accomplished these mandates with the land and the building on that property. And we had a formal partnership with Yukon. We have we had a memorandum of understanding. It's a partnership with Yukon. That's how they operate the extension program around the country. And the extension activities could be held throughout all the property. They could use all the buildings. The Yukon educators had well-maintained offices on site to fulfill their duties. The public could come and visit and receive free services from the extension program. And the grounds, the FCAC maintained all the grounds, well-maintained for this purpose. So the real history is the property was donated for this specific purpose by the Weed family back in the, there's Weed Road and all of that. So the Weed family of Bethel back in 1950. They actually donated initially to the Farm Bureau because at that time the Farm Bureau was overseeing extension programs around the country. But in 1955, they were trying to consolidate and come up with an extension program for our county, consolidated on one site for the entire county. And so that's when the FCAC was set up as a 501c3 charity to provide that purpose. And then in 1960, the land actually came over to the charity. And so that gave the charity the ability to do its whole intent: support programming at Yukon and also manage the property, develop and expand and maintain that property for Yukon programming. So, and you're right, we have the buildings there. You showed everything. The white building we have used as a training program until 2017. A little bit later. That building was originally a building at the Chippewa Dam. The volunteers took it apart piece by piece, re-put it back together on the property. These same people, raised all kinds of money to build that brick building. And that's the same brick building, from like 1960 that the educators still work in today. And it's not maybe updated, but it's there. And, you know, all the barns, the fencing, I mean, all volunteer money. So you got to recognize that these are people that put in volunteer money. They were donating to this charity, and everybody expects this property and all those buildings to be used for its charitable intent. And in 2013, you mentioned the demo garden. We did expand and we're able to put in the demo garden. And we produce over almost as much as 1,400 pounds of organic gardening produce that we give to all the area food kitchens. But more importantly, it's an education tool. It's not just a community garden. It's an education tool so people can come and learn about organic gardening, flowers, fruit. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, that's the purpose that we have. So I just want to say, in summary, this U.S. Extension program was actually put in place by U.S. federal law back in 2014. So this is a serious program run by the U.S. Department of Agriculture all through the United States. Every county has an extension program. We happen to be, you know, we support the one that is in this Fairfield County with UConn as a partnership. So we're also supposed to have, along with, you know, the programming is also the property, because all this moves together so we can have this programming for Fairfield County. And I just want to tell you a couple other things. I have a petition with 2,657 signatures, and this went to the prior selectmen. It also went to Dan. And these are, you know, the support from the community. And then we started this petition in 2022 to make sure UConn was not evicted from that property, and everybody wants the property back to the FCAC. And also, we did go to the Attorney General, so the Attorney General is involved. In September, let's see the exact date, September 7, 2022, the Attorney General has a position letter. It was also presented to the prior selectmen of Bethel, and I think, Dan, I'm not sure if we got you a new copy. Also, Stony Hill Preserve has it, and that's what has, you know, why some of these cases are going on, because, you know, the current owner is not fulfilling the intent of the property. So hopefully that gives you an idea of
what happened in 2017 with the transfer. What was the genesis of that?
Good question. Thank you for that question. And thank you for the time.
Segue.
Well,
Thank
Say
you.
your name, Claire.
Claire Bacon. I'm the vice president at the moment on our group. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this information with you. I'm an old lady. I've been on the group for like almost 20 years now. I was drafted to join by a gentleman named Bernie Dyslinski. Maybe some of you know him. He was very active politically. Bernie Dyslinski was president most of the years he was on the board. He served as an officer on our council from 2003 to February 6, 2017. He died Monday, February 6, 2017. I enjoyed serving on the executive committee with him for many years while he was president. And on Tuesday, February 7, 2017, one day after Bernie's passing, an active discussion began regarding changing the land ownership to another nonprofit agency. The vice president became the acting president, and under that administration, actions to transfer ownership of the council land and the council money commenced. The prior year, the council had gone through a legal process required to handle an adverse possession lawsuit. I'll skip the details. I was a very active part of that legal team. We received $80,000 from the bordering property as a result of that lawsuit. In 2017, all the council money was transferred to the Stony Hill Preserve shortly thereafter. The land had been after the land had been transferred. These council votes and discussions were completely hidden from me. Yes, and it was on the board. In a document created roughly the same time, Stony Hill Preserve claimed they would donate at least 1,000 years annually to the Fairfield County Agricultural Extension Council. A small compensation because they took away our ability to have the rental income, which we were using for the educators and the educators program and maintenance and everything else. Stony Hill Preserve donated this money for 2 years, and then according to their minutes, they said they would no longer support this endeavor and change the locks on the white building. The council and the educators were told they had to submit a request if we wish to utilize the white building. This building, as you heard earlier, was donated to the council, and the council members physically moved it with support of volunteers. Before this land transfer to the Stony Hill Preserve occurred, we had complete access to everything, of course, because we owned it. Now we're uncomfortable.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry to interrupt a little bit, but I think you're getting into more of the dynamics of whatever litigation is going on between all these parties. And I'm hesitant. I think you're going off topic a little bit as to what you started with was the history of the property and the uses associated with the property. I'm sorry to interrupt you like that, but it is getting late and there may be other people that wish to speak. And if you disagree with me, Mr. Chairman, I apologize.
I think the whole thing is fascinating.
Word. I'm not sure I would use that word.
But, no, and I don't want to cut anyone off. But hearing all this, I feel like our intentions are similar to yours. As I think, and the vote was unanimous. We want the board, or want the property, I should say, to kind of stay with the original intent. Now, I didn't know all the ins and outs of what's happened in 2017, and I'm sympathetic to your fight for sure. But again, I think that doesn't change that if the board was if the litigation is settled, and for some reason you guys are denied the property, and there's an opportunity to Bethel to acquire the town, to acquire the property and then protect it. I think we should take that opportunity rather than just let whoever
Well,
owns it at that
we
point.
would not object to.
And again, that's all that's all this
We
board
would
was
not object to
trying
having
to.
the protections on the land either.
Yeah, no, and again, that's again,
The protecting the land, we were doing it personally when we owned it.
Yeah.
So why would we object to that now? Never.
No,
No, that would
and-
not be logical.
And again, I want to make, I feel
We're
like
in
we're on,
litigation.
yeah.
And we really don't want to see them, have this record become part of whatever record they're in litigation.
Yeah.
Okay?
But again, I just want to emphasize that we are sympathetic to you guys, your group, and our intention is to protect the land from future development.
And we are grateful to hear that.
Yeah.
And I had finished what I was gonna say
Okay.
anyway. But this is my second time in the lawsuit and I will fight.
Excellent. Is there any other public?
Yeah, I'm Ron Schweitzer, and I'm a member of the FCAC Council located at Stony Hill Road. I'm also a Yukon certified master gardener, operating out of the 67 Stony Hill extension property. I think Barb talked a little bit about what the extension.
What your address, sir?
Oh, my address, 6 Maplewood Drive in Danbury. Okay. The Yukon extension, located at 67 Stony Hill Road. It serves all of Fairfield County community by disseminating knowledge and gained from Yukon through its extensive educator programs and resources. As they mentioned, we're the nonprofit organization whose sole purpose is to help provide direction support for the overall operation of the Fairfield County Extension. But we also collaborate with them to help promote their programs throughout the county, and also to provide some supplemental funding for some of the extension programs. The priority and the intended use of the property is to support existing and future extension programs. I'm going to highlight some of the existing programs, but this is also an ever-evolving thing that goes on at the extension. Now, the extension programs have been adversely affected by recent changes in the property ownership issues that have limited the Fairfield County Agriculture Extension's ability to support the extension the way we want to, and also the extension's use of the property. Now, I'd like to just highlight some of the programs. Some of you are probably more familiar with the Master Gardening Program, but that's only one of a number of programs that are operated out of the extension. The Master Gardening Program provides training to environmentally and community-minded volunteers in horticulture and gardening best practices. Now, to give you an idea, into the scope of what they do. Last year, the Master Gardeners volunteered over 1,700 hours in the Extension Office Center to provide horticulture and gardening information to the local community. They also volunteered over 3,800 hours on over 63 outreach projects around the county that included things like restoring native habitats, creating pollinator pathways, educating groups on invasive plants and insects, and cultivating vegetable gardens for local food pantries. It was also highlighted that we operate a 3,000 square foot demonstration vegetable garden that raises over 1,000 to 1,400 pounds a year worth of food that's donated to local food pantries. It also serves as an education tool so people can see demonstrated techniques. The Master Gardening Program also offers MG classes on various topics that are open to the public. That's only one of the major programs. There's the health and nutrition aspect of it. And the two main programs there is the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program. It provides education and training to diverse, food insecure audiences and to help families learn about things like healthy eating, shopping on a budget, nutrition information, and food safety practices. It also has the SNAP Ed program, which is a supplemental assistance nutrition program that provides food and nutrition education and resources to people who receive the USAA SNAP benefits. So last year, the health and nutrition programs out of this Bethel office reached 2,188 people that included adults, seniors, and youth through 97 education sessions throughout Fairfield County. Another program that I wanted to mention, which is one that's a newer program that is really starting to grow, is the Urban Agriculture Program. Urban Agriculture provides education, technical support, and resources to encourage increased access to fresh, locally grown produce in Connecticut's cities and urban areas. It also encourages individuals and groups to grow, produce, and sell, donate, or use for household consumption. And it really aims to support expanding urban agriculture within Connecticut. It also provides business management and farm operations know-how among beginning farms and farmers. And the last program I want to kind of highlight is the 4-H program. And the UConn's 4-H is a youth development program of the UConn Extension. It's focused on helping youths ages 5 through 18 in acquiring knowledge and developing leadership and life skills that will enable them to become self-directing, productive, and contributing members of their families and communities, which is important, I think, for all of us. Last year, 4-H volunteer leaders contributed 1,976 hours of leadership to the youth clubs within Fairfield County. The youth themselves, some of their development activities included over 300 youth involved in 4-H activities, over 250 exhibits of project work at the fair, over 675 hours contributing to the local area by 4-H community service project. So you can see the extension is a lot more than just Master Garden is probably one of the more familiar projects, but there's a lot more that's going on at the extension. So really, in summary, the UConn Extension at 67 Stony Hill delivers significant value to the Fairfield County community and offers the potential to deliver more in the future. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Joan Gary Bradley, 66 Ridgedale Road. I'm the oldest person in the room. And I'm also the oldest resident of Bethel, having been born here. And I have a letter, but I'm not going to read it because Beth said she'd leave if I did. I remember when she was born. Yeah.
And I've seen pictures in a bridesmaid dress at my mother's wedding.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Yes, that was your mother's bridesmaid.
That's right.
It was my bridesmaid.
That's right. Okay,
Go
too
back
much
a long time.
information. Let's go. Come on.
All right,
Go.
go. All right, I just want to talk about the legacy. I knew Mr. Weed, who owned the property. As a little kid, I used to follow him around. He had a wonderful herd of Holstein cows. And he'd run around in his pickup truck and gather them all around in front of my house. And that's how he would get them back to the barn in his pickup truck. And he had a wonderful, wonderful collection of poultry sheds. And he had 2 mules, Pete and Maud. I remember all that as a kid. Now, that's his legacy. and his legacy, he loved farming, very involved with the Farm Bureau. And he wanted this property to be agricultural. And that's what we're talking about here. And I'm not going to read the rest of it because I've taken my bugs to them. I've taken my flowers. They've been wonderful. Anyway, last paragraph. As we watch the new buildings on Route 6 become occupied, we can't help but notice the increase in traffic and the weight on local services that density brings. Having the extension service functioning at 67 Stony Hill Road serves as an educational oasis and continues the agricultural legacy that Mr. Weed so generously bestowed on the town of Bethel and its residents. So thank you, and thank you for your approval. Thank you, Bob, for making the motion, and thank you, Dan, for your very clear presentation. Thank you all.
We need.
That wasn't bad, was it?
No, it's good.
Is there any other public comment tonight?
I just have one, this Ralph, based on some of the comments that were made by other colleagues. My name is Ronald Adams. I'm a treasurer for FCAEC. And I just want to mention briefly that as we have recovered our board, right, over the past couple of years, right, that we're now going to expand our reach and our support for the educators. And that means that we have established a fundraising committee to help us, be able to contribute more to the educators. And we also have a vision for how we want to expand the use of that property, all along the lines of agricultural purposes, providing more services for groups that are currently being underserviced, that are within our purview of operations, such as urban agriculture, such as 4-H. So right now we have to rent properties in order to conduct some of our programs. So looking to be able to address some of those needs more efficiently and more cost effective manners by using the property more effectively.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there any other? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Jamie McDonald, 5 Empire Lane in Bethel, and I'm an advanced master gardener with the program. And I'm also one of the volunteers that helps maintain the demo garden that's up on Stony Hill. I just wanted to make a point, and when Dan said that, you were approached recently about, hey, there's a possibility you could acquire this land, and then you found out it was a lawsuit. I want the board to just kind of think about the land. And I won't go into details on the lawsuit, but the land was, we're going to say, not totally ethically, strangely moved from the FCAEC to the Stony Hill Preserve. Okay. Now the FCAEC, it's a mouthful, I know, has filed this lawsuit to get the land back. We've then discovered that the transfer wasn't totally on the level as we believe. Right. They are fighting to give it back, and they will do anything. It's almost like a very personal vendetta that we do not understand, to not give it back to the council that ran it for over 60 years. They have tried to give it to the, as we said, the land trust, and now they've come to the town with it. When Ms. Galdi settled, they just said, that's right, let it go back to the council. So the fact that they're trying very hard to keep it from the council should make you ask some questions. And maybe, and to look at the people that were involved in that early transfer. I won't name names.
What happened?
I lost the meeting.
We lost them. Dave, can you do something?
Yeah, let me see what I can do. 1 second, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
No problem.
Dave, that was my fault. I went home, do it from home, and I switched it over to here, and I was logged in there.
Okay.
So Beth will just have to log in.
Okay, let me call her real quick.
Okay.
There, it's back.
We lost you for a bit.
I don't think we're on.
We just,
You're on.
Yeah.
You're on. Sorry about that.
You hear us now?
Is somebody running this?
Yes, we can see and hear you again. Thank you.
All right, yeah.
Hi, my name's Wayne Grant. I'm probably at the opposite end of the spectrum, being possibly the newest member in town, having just moved here 2.5 years ago. But one of the things we saw and I'm at 30 Redwood, so getting to our house, we drove by the demonstration garden every day while we were house hunting, and it was something that attracted me here. And I'm not going to repeat, I'll support everything that everybody said about the programs, the land, everything. But as a newcomer in town, one of the things that attracted me to this community was the commitment to green space, the commitment to preserving in the midst of development. My dad was a developer, so and please don't anybody hate me, but so I get it. I mean, life does go on, but in trying to keep these pockets of things, and it's, you know, the support is good to have, and hopefully, you know, to Jamie's point, that there's not something weird going on, that they're trying to give it to everybody except to the council. So, but I learned a lot about extension officers and their value to the communities. And I think Bethel is extraordinarily lucky that they were able to have a Yukon presence in their town. It attracts folks from Reading, Ridgefield, Westport, all over. Easton, West, you know, all over they come up here and they call in. It is the most active call-in center of all of the extension offices. And it's a wonderful thing you've got. So anyway, thank you for letting me say my piece.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Karen Brown, and I'm a master gardener also. And I can't really say anything better than anyone already said, but I just want to thank you for your support, and let's hope that it goes our way.
Karen, can I have your address?
30 Mudry Road in Brookfield.
Is there anyone else in here? Yes, ma'am.
Are you all finished? Because I don't want to say something in the middle of all of that. Jan Moy, 10 Diamond Avenue. I just want to commend you all for some really good comments about the TOD. I thought they were very thoughtful, and I really appreciate that. And I look forward to the conversation that will go on. In a couple of weeks, I can see the train platform from my front door. And I clocked it today. It's a mile to walk from my house to the train platform. And crazy. And Allison says, for the record, she can run it in 9, but to walk it is 18 to 20.
Okay.
So
From Elgin Avenue. Allison
no,
lives on Elgin
she's
Avenue.
on Elgin, but I asked her for a mile.
It
So
doesn't-
from my
whatever.
house.
Got it.
So it's a full mile to get there, walking around, even though you can see, I mean, I can hear it, I can see it. So the scope of the TOD in terms of walking time is huge.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Jan needs to give her address.
Excuse me?
Jan needs to give her address.
Diamond Avenue.
She did, in Diamond Avenue.
We have it. She's a regular.
We had to give it though.
Linda Poole, 39 Benedict Road. I learned an awful lot about the Extension Center. We have lived here since 1975, and I actually have to say that with the farmers market and all of the construction and development that's going on in this community, you are a breath of fresh air. And I do appreciate all of the work that all of you are putting into the consideration of the landscape as people are looking to develop and to keep our hometown being the hometown that we love so much. I have a diversion that kind of goes into with traffic and that continues through the Chimney Heights area and cutting through, and I know that it's inevitable with the development and the continuation of everything, but we also have problems with some drainage issues that have been going on, and we flooded during the big storm in August and I'm literally at the last points of being able to put our home back into order, having lost our whole lower level. And my question is, and we've had some issues there since we moved to Benedict in 1988, and had issues late 80s through the mid 90s. Some work was done on a drainage system that goes behind our properties to Colonial Drive, which apparently we're all familiar with. Well, I know that my conversations with Beth in the office have conveyed that, and have been told, and some improvements were made and everything was done, and it has been not a problem until we had this major storm. And it's designated as a swale, where the properties all run down steeply to each other and drain away. But it's trying to get reaction for other property owners, which I can sympathize with the woman who was speaking about Milwaukee Avenue, with not wanting to be, raising red flags and, issues. But if someone is not managing and taking care of their property, and then letters are sent by the town to be able to get there to remove blockages from the drainage systems that go behind, and then no responses coming from them, where do you go next? Because I was told that, well, yeah, we can send this strongly worded letter, yet we have no recourse or authority to be able to enforce any of the issues. So someone about 4 or 5 houses down from us felled a tree, and it's like a 24-inch diameter tree, and there's 3 sections that are 8 foot long that are blocking the drainage pipe, and we're just waiting for the next rain because it's basically just dammed the whole thing. The next rain that's going to come, and I'm kind of blessing that we've been having a really dry spell, because I'm really afraid that the next rain that we're going to get, we're going to be right back where we were. And
I sympathize with. I'm sorry, were you done?
yeah, that's
I definitely sympathize with you. That's more of a public works issue. I would recommend you, if you're not getting anywhere with, if you're emailing one public works, to contact our first selectman, who is conveniently sitting right
I have
Okay.
several conversations,
Okay, good.
and Dan has been really, really helpful.
Yeah.
But it just sort of even seems that there's, and Beth has been very gracious and helpful and all that too, but it's behind people's property.
Yeah.
It's just trying to clarify where there's a right of way and there's an easement for a parcel of land that was recently developed. So I know that an easement was given there for the town to have been able to put some drainage through with the building of the vicinity of 29 Benedict area.
I
I just
think
don't-
Linda is,
beyond frustrated.
she's frustrated.
No, and I can appreciate
I
that.
think
there's
that
nothing that's
what has
working.
happened is the planning is, our department tends to be the department of last resort. And, we tend to try to be as helpful as we can to others. And there was a great inundation within town hall of people with concerns about the storm effects There was limited availability through the Public Works Department. Obviously, Bob Dibble was out surveying all the things. I was out only because that's been my role for many, many years here without a town engineer. That's the bottom line. But you do have a director of public works. We try to intervene as much as we could, usually by sending a strongly worded letter that gives you a reaction. Okay, and if you get a strongly worded letter from the land use department saying, hey, you put trees in a swale in your backyard, they got to be removed, you get a reaction. We didn't get a reaction. So by us trying to be helpful, we've increased the neighbor's anxiety because she keeps coming in and saying, well, have you heard from them? Is anything going on? So on and so forth. In the meantime, Jim Carter, due to a lot of these drainage things that have been occurring, did give a blessing of using SLR consultants and our consulting engineer to start investigating this. Has he been slow? Yes, but he's been slow because of other work. Has it still created frustration for this particular property owner? I understand it and I get it. But at the same time, there's nothing that you as a planning and zoning commission or the land use department can do at this point, and that's my.
No, I sympathize with you, but I don't think that's anything to do with
My
any
feeling.
purview.
Dan may
that this board
disagree,
has.
but it's in public works hand.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Listen,
Well,
I'm sorry it's taking time.
Yeah.
There's 10 projects that they're looking at. There's the top two are McCower Circle and you. So the engineers are looking at it, but then the other piece of this is we're gonna have to go out and figure, how do we do the work on private property? Because we don't have the ability, we can write a letter, and then if it causes damage, maybe we can get in and try to get the courts on board. That's about it. That's about all we can do. And even that is difficult because it's private property. And we run into that a lot in town. So we're trying to approach this by getting the engineer in there and looking at the whole thing and saying, how do we fix that whole drainage system through there?
But
you.
yeah, but it's a walking it and you see that, you know, a huge tree was taken down and dropped that's 24 inches in diameter and cut in, and there's 3 sections that are like 8 foot long. It's not on my property, but they are literally fell to the drain pipe that's there, which had been working fine. And I really do think that if those trees had not been there, we would not have sustained the damage that we sustained during the storm. That we're kind of at, you know, wit's end, and I'm battling a lot of battles back and forth with all of this with you know, my husband would normally go down, but he's battling stage 4 cancer right now. So it's like not, you know, in his thing. And so it's just trying to figure out, where do we go? And is it to a point that we need to address and do, you know, have a lawsuit or attorneys involved or whatever, which are expenses at this point, frankly, that we can't endure.
Well, that's why we're trying to do it through the engineer route. If we can get everybody to buy into this, because by the way, they don't let us go on private property and do that. I mean, the fact we got a picture of it is amazing. I go cut it myself. I'll be out there with a chainsaw tomorrow. The last thing I want to do is find myself in trouble with the property owner, but we'll continue to figure this out. I mean, our engineer's looking at it, and that's all I can promise for now until.
You have been
Yeah,
responsive and I appreciate it, but I just, you know, it's like every option that I can, you know, can think to try to address it, you know, I'm trying to address it with before, you know, we're in a predicament of.
So we should probably talk about that again offline because of the commission's time. I don't want to.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone else?
There's 2 people.
Yeah, I see those. I was gonna ask you here first before I go online.
Well, I just want to invite you in advance to our next annual meeting, because hearing our educators talk about what they're doing and how much they're accomplishing, it's so much fun. I hope you all
When
come
is
to
it?
our next annual meeting.
That'll be July.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And
All
we
right.
could send you the report online too.
Thank you.
Wrap it up.
I see some hands online. Mr. Brad Colts. You there?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Obviously it's really late, so I'm going to talk really fast. I've got a couple of points I wanted to make. Somebody had mentioned 30 people at the meeting relative to the TOD. I just wanted to point out that the online petition to repeal the TOD has now reached 500 verified signatures. It continues to grow. This is not an issue that's going to go away. And this is not an issue that is, a couple of people showing up for a meeting. It's town-wide. And Paul, I heard your comments on it, and I thought they were kind of spot on. I was a bit disappointed that you folks did not ask the staff to begin investigating a moratorium. It's obvious that this is going to drag out for some time, and that the exposure for more and more TOD overdevelopment for the community lingers. And I would ask that the commission at some point come back and look at that as a temporary solution while you work toward a more permanent determination about either repealing it or dramatically reducing it. Because the issue, it was kind of danced around, but the fact is that the TOD overrides the zoning for the districts that it is overlaid on top of for many types of development. And there should be no dancing around that. The fact is that we have a historic district that is subordinate to the TOD for certain types of development. We have a village district that is subordinate to the TOD for certain types of development. And your hands are tied by that because of the way it's structured. So I just wanted to point that out. There was also some fear discussed a little bit about the state efforts to expand the transit-oriented community and hold certain types of funds hostage. I did a look at 10 years worth of STEEP grants, which is what they were going to hold us over our head. Bethel has averaged $122,000 a year over that period, many years with nothing. So the idea that the state wagging $122,000 in funding at us is going to alter how you folks determine how we should develop the community, I hope you find laughable, because it should be. As far as the Nashville project, I would just like to ask that you folks consider looking at moving that entrance. If the building's going to be rebuilt, perhaps it should be repositioned, because the idea that a development with 20+ parking spots is going to empty into Nashville right at the point where South Street comes in. Anybody in the afternoon who's tried to come through that intersection knows how far back that goes and how dangerous that'll be. I just wanted to point that out. Lastly, I have had the privilege of working with many of the members of the Agricultural Extension Council. The Master Gardeners and others provide my newspapers with excellent educational material that we proudly run, and I'm grateful for that. But I am troubled that the town entering into negotiations with one of the parties involved in this lawsuit gives the view that the town supports that party in that. And I would ask that you folks give some serious consideration to the optics of what the town is engaging in with one side of this relative to the amazing people sitting across from the commission right now who've come to this meeting, sat through 3 hours of it so that they could give their feedback. And I would hope that the town would find some way to reestablish neutrality in that proceeding. I got the comments that were made, but I think outside this room, someone not hearing that, looking at the positions and the suggestion perhaps to move forward on that, might see it differently. And it would be, I think, in everyone's interest if the commission made some formal statement that you, by taking the position that the property should be preserved, are in no way taking a position relative to the suit or who should have control of that property, because that would be a terrible, terrible outcome relative to the terrific work that this organization's done for the entire county for 60 plus years. Thank you.
Your name and address, please, for the record?
Sorry, Dave. Brad Colts, 1 Fairchild Drive. I
Thank
thought
you.
I thought I was a frequent flyer too. Oh well.
Thank you, sir.
Sandra Wilson.
Ms. Wilson? You're muted, Ms. Wilson.
Noted.
Thank you. My name is
That's
Sandy
better.
Wilson. I'm the Fairfield County Master Gardener Coordinator, and I work out of 67 Stony Hill Road in Bethel as the Master Gardener Coordinator. I live in Seymour, which is like an hour away from you, but thank you for letting us all speak tonight. And I want to thank all the Master Gardeners that came and the council and the public that supports us. And I just want to say that I really hope that you all look into the history of the property, who owned the property, and educate yourself about what happened with this lawsuit, because I think it's important for everybody to know. It really is an injustice, and we're trying to preserve the land. We're trying to get the land back. The FCAEC, who actually supports Extension, and Extension should have 100% access to that property. We had that for over 60 years. So many people come from all over Fairfield County to use our services. And, it brings so much business to the town of Bethel, to Hollandia and Big Y and Target and all your businesses, Pete's Deli along that road. I just think it's important that you support us, and I know, and I understand you want to support us, but I'm hoping that you'll try to support us because we both have the same thing in mind. We want that land to not be developed. We want that land to be there and be preserved and have that as open space, but we also want to be able to use it for our programs, which is what it was intended for since the 1950s. So I hope that maybe there's some way the town can find a way to try to help us to get this land back and preserve it. But, come together with us. And I appreciate Brad's comments that he made, because I think it's very true. That means so many people on those petitions want to see the same things that we do. They want to see this land go back to the FCAEC, which is what it was, as Joan said earlier, that's what it was intended for. So I won't take up any more of your time, and I appreciate everything that you guys do, and I appreciate you letting us say our piece. And I just hope that we could work with you together to get this resolved to the way it should be, which is, returning the land to the rightful owners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Is
Chairman.
there any other public comment? Any other public comment?
Dan wants to
I
speak.
do have one comment,
Sure.
because from Mr. Coltz's comments, I think something needs to be clear. The town never got involved with one side or the other. When the town was approached, we went straight to UConn. And we've been talking to UConn all through this process, understanding that UConn is over the extension, because that's all I keep talking about, the extension. Hold on. I understand now that you're a separate organization. I get that. Totally get it. You have a separate lawsuit going on. Totally understand that. But I just want to make sure it's very, very clear for the town's perspective. The town just came into this as a kind of a neutral person. And we've been talking to the Charities Division of UConn. We've been talking to the Attorney General's office, and we've been talking to UConn lawyers, all above. So all the conversations have kind of been there. The town has not tried to weigh in on one side or the other. And honestly, today's the first time we had the actual letter about the case, and we found it on a title search probably a week ago. So knowing that there's not a clear title, we're not getting involved in the legal fight. But I mean, it was kind of misconstrued that Mr. Colt said it.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we did not step in. The town has not done anything inappropriate.
No.
We have been talking to UConn this entire time. Just want to make sure that was clear.
Excellent. And I will just say one more point. As far as this board is concerned, we were just concerned with protecting the property. and not seeing it torn down and turned into whatever you could imagine. You know,
We don't want that either.
so
Yeah.
that,
They have a
that,
great imagination. I
that,
will
is- that, as far as this board is concerned, that was and is our intention with the way we recommended tonight, was to keep it, as open space.
And from the town's perspective, just to throw this in, the other part of this is to make sure the property stays in good shape. That's the real problem, is we want to make sure long-term that it's preserved and it's run in such a way that the buildings are taken care of, that the property is maintained, right? So that was no problems in the land trust. You know, land trust has never been in the business of renting or taking care of buildings, right? So from the town's perspective, I looked at the beginning, I'm like, wow, I don't know if that's a great idea. Where the town has that infrastructure, we have the ability, it kind of leveled the playing field in the sense that us working with the state made sense. So that's just so you understand from the town's perspective going into it, that's where it was.
So we were actually taking care of the property before.
I don't know why,
Right.
I don't know why they did it, and I'm not getting involved in that.
Yeah,
But there is
understand that,
history,
but
and
I just wanted to clarify that.
I know, and you've rebuilt the board, and I think it's terrific.
Yes.
I get it.
And we have a history of maintaining that property.
But
we
I
should
just,
heard
one thing I
various
just want to
plans.
make very clear to everyone, we've spent almost 2 hours
Yeah.
on this evening. And it's a great conversation. It's been a great educational experience for this board. This board has absolutely no jurisdiction
Yeah.
over what is occurring with this property
I
now.
understand.
So in the future, I suggest that you talk to the first selectman's office if this is going to continue with the town. Whatever's going on with the town from this point going forward. And I hope I think that's been very helpful for the Planning and Zoning Commission to know what you all do and what's occurred on the property over the last 60 years. I could have added to it, but I felt no need to.
Thank you.
Yeah, we understand,
Thank you, Beth.
and
Excellent.
we
Okay.
do appreciate you guys
Thank you.
listening in.
All right.
All right.
And that's all we have for tonight. This, Mr. Chairman.
And with that, I will declare this meeting closed. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.